I'm recording.
All right, I'm recording too.
I've also prepared
for posterity.
Ooh, good song.
I know you guys already think I'm great.
Well, Posterity is also the title track of the soundtrack for Tenet, which is a fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah,
I've been listening to it all week.
That was a line in the movie.
They used it a couple of times. Yeah, I got used to it.
Yeah, I was like, hey, record. I'm not going to spoil anything for Scott right now. I'm sure he'll watch it later. But yeah, record this for posterity. And it's like, aha, see, at the end, posterity. It's like, that's clever. Good one.
Okay, actually, I do want to do a tiny bit of non-spoiler talking, though, just
about Tenet.
Yes. I think what I want to try to get.
Do we need to sync anything recording wise, or are we okay?
I don't think we do.
He can deal with it later in the editing bay.
I can. It's not a huge deal. It doesn't cost as much.
In
the bay.
Bay.
It'll be fine. Yeah, this is actually the editing bay. My bedroom is somewhere else. That's just my futon that I sleep on in the editing bay sometimes.
It's quite bed shaped, your futon.
A little bit. Yeah, no, it helps. It's also dangerously thin to where I'll wake up and I have pain right where all the bars are, so I have to fold it in half like that. So you guys get a nice little peep into my squalid life.
You take naps then? You're a nap guy?
No, I just haven't put it back together.
You just haven't put it back together. So you like the grill marks. You're there for the grill mark nap.
Yeah,
exactly.
You want an even char all around.
Yeah, I'm also single, so there's no one who's going to come and bother me about it. Over there, I think you can see is like probably $2,500 of camera, but like
I was gonna say that's like your
precariously precariously hanging on what appears to be a $15 tripod.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it averages out. The whole thing averages out to mid-priced, but yeah, that's one of those filming Bob Crane getting killed cameras.
Yes.
Well, oh man, the one I'm scared of is I just bought suction cups. We're gonna shoot a short here in the next in October. All right. And
they're called little people. You can't just call them a short.
Yeah, we're gonna record a little person in October, and the first shot is a pretty long shot of just following a car. And I've decided I want to do it via suction cup to keep the camera on my car, and I'm terrified. So wish me luck on that.
Yeah, I would experiment with other things that weigh about the same as a camera first.
Now, we did mess with it where I put it on the car and had everyone try to pull it off of the car. It's actually, those things do work. I mean, it's like they use them for movies. It's just my first time doing it. So I'm not necessarily as worried about the tenacity of the gear as in my lack of skill messing it up.
Fair. Well, just in case.
I'd still be a little worried. I understand.
Yeah. Just in case, you should get somebody else to film you guys filming so that if it does break, you have the
at least you can put it in the making of.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah, actually, I do for sure plan to. Whoever has the least to do on set will be like behind the scenes guy.
What's the short about? Are you like a film crew? Are you directing? Are you writing? What's the scoop?
So all of those things. I have a crew of 4 or 5. Some people acting when they're not on camera will be, doing some secondary duties because, just small, don't know 100 people that want to do this kind of stuff. And yeah, we're doing it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of it's a mystery alien abduction thing, but the alien abduction part is kind of just the thing that happens. And most of it is you actually trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
And it's actually closer to, I got it from a folkloric tale from, what's it called? You guys familiar with White Wolf at all? The game company that made like Vampire the Masquerade?
Yes. I can't remember if I mentioned this last time because I think White Wolf came up one other time. Maybe I was going to and didn't get around to it. Okay. But anyway, if I've already said it, just cut this out. But the reason I know White Wolf is because there was a WWF wrestler in the late 90s who had a vampire gimmick named Gangrel, and they had to license that name from White Wolf. So whenever, because you would always see on the credits of like their video games on N64 and stuff, they'd be all like the regular trademark stuff, and then at the bottom like Gangrel is a registered trademark of White Wolf Inc. licensed to awesome. So that's the only reason I know White Wolf.
I know why it came up. We talked about it when we were talking about Underworld. And I was talking about how White Wolf created a lot of the stuff that Underworld, got inspired from. And so that must have been when you wanted to bring that up. But I don't think we talked about the wrestler. That's a cool tidbit.
Yeah.
So, Why did I bring it up? White Wolf
You were talking about
Vampires.
mystery alien abduction.
Oh, right. So one
One
of
thing
their
is
books,
sort of based on.
well,
or
yeah,
related to.
one of their books is Fae. It's about fairies, and
I thought it was
it's
like gay dudes, effeminate gay dudes.
is that what they call them?
I mean, it's an
D&D
adjective. It's an adjective for effeminate men. Is fey.
I've never heard that in my life, but I mean, fair enough because it's fairy folk or free folk, whatever.
Yeah.
So what happens is one of the storylines they had is that is what alien abductions are. It's not actually aliens; it's fae, and so they'll come and steal you and replace you with a
queers.
doppelganger.
Oh.
It was the whole time. And they steal our straight men and they replace them with gay men, with doppelgangers.
And they like prod them and do weird sex things with them.
And there was a cool, well, that's kind of the idea is that, well, I mean, not the gay part, but yeah, that's the idea. Is that,
You're gonna reference the prodding.
well,
you
yeah,
got
a little bit. We're going to have like a kind of a flashback scene to that. But part of the idea is that like you get, I like the idea of you being abducted and you're gone for a long time.
Me?
You make your way. Yes, you.
Sorry,
Gael gets abducted.
are
you come
abducted.
home.
Wow.
You expect that everybody misses you, but then you look in the window and you realize that no one missed you because you've been there the whole time. They replaced you immediately, so no one even
Oh
knew
wow,
you were gone.
that's interesting.
Right. So then what do you do? And so that's kind of what happens in the shore. Is this guy having to figure out how to like, I have to handle this situation and try to.
Does it
get
end
my
with
life
no,
back.
no, shoot him? He's the imposter.
If there's a scene like that in the movie, it's gotta have a Hollywood script. You know, it's
No,
only the best movies do those scenes.
The Island from Michael Bay. I remember that was right before I knew Michael Bay was a hack, and I was like, I'm going to keep an eye out on this Michael Bay.
What
Yeah,
did
I
he
think I
make? What
saw
did he
that.
make that was like eye-catching before Transformers? Did like Independence? No. Did he do Independence Day? Who did? Someone did some
wouldn't
exploding
be
White
surprised.
House related
I think
thing.
Bruckheimer was Independence Day.
Well, he
Bruckheimer.
did. So his big things that people would have known him from was he's Bad Boys.
Right.
He did
that
Bad
was
Boys.
it.
Didn't he do
But he did The
Rock?
Island, and that was actually like.
Did he
okay.
actually? No, he couldn't have done The Rock. Did he do The Rock?
That's a
I think he
You
might
know
have.
what? You're right. He might have done The Rock.
Computer, pull up
For some-
The Rock,
You know,
but
for
not
some
Dwayne
reason.
Johnson.
For some reason, in my mind, John Woo did The Rock, but now that
I
can't possibly be
no.
right. So it
That's
has to be Michael Bay.
I'm confident John Woo
Woo
did not do The Rock.
Yeah, it's got to be Michael Bay.
It is Michael Bay, director Michael Bay. No, but didn't John Woo do Face Off?
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not ridiculous that he did The Rock.
They're
No.
they're close in my mind.
There's just
they're,
no doves.
They're sister films in my mind.
There's no Guns Akimbo, and there's no
I think
doves.
we should watch The Rock, by the way, like for like a commentary or something at some point.
I thought
That's,
you guys did. No,
I
you
wouldn't
guys did
mind,
Face
yeah.
Off.
We did Face Off, yeah.
Okay, I was see, I
Man.
got him confused already.
You know what? We haven't done any Sean Connery. We haven't done like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or any of the other hits.
Ooh,
How
that
have
one's
you
hard.
not
Had.
gotten the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen done yet? Like that is your favorite movie. How is it
I don't-
possible
it's
we haven't
just-
done that?
we have to
how,
move
how
Adam on
little
that.
how little sway do you hold in your own house that you can't get this movie
Gotta tell
done?
Adam, be like, I pay half the rent. We're watching.
Diegesis is nowhere near half. But yeah.
We're watching my movie. I remember that was like the beginning of my childhood dying, where I was realizing I was like, I should like this movie more than I do.
Yeah, like this on paper is cool. Why don't I like
Yes.
it? What's happening?
I like all of these people, like these characters, and so it's a movie with all these characters. I should love this.
Yeah. Can we talk about the fact that Michael Bay has 2 movies in the Criterion Collection?
Does he actually?
What are there?
The Rock and Armageddon.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know what. Here's what's hard. Some of those movies, although not fantastic, you could make the argument that they're like important, huge cultural
Yeah.
touchstones.
The
So
the
then-
on paper argument is that they're important for their genres, and I think the real reason is the studio demanded those 2 be put into the collection because Criterion wanted a couple like good movies from
Actual
that studio.
good-
We're like,
I was gonna
you
make
can
that
have them,
argument,
but
yeah.
you also need to do Michael Bay.
I could see that. I mean, legitimately, there's almost nothing that isn't corruptible. The guy who wrote that book, Freakonomics, was talking about how even in sumo wrestling, which should be like completely above reproach, had
It's pure.
evidence of cheating. And so same problem with Criterion, even where it's like you would like to think it's a purely artistic choice that they're making, but I could see a studio being like, hey, if you want these in your collection, which add value to your collection, you got.
I'm pretty sure that legitimately is the deal of what happened. Yeah, I can't remember what the good ones were they wanted, but yeah.
Before anyone freaks out in the comments, we've gotten way off track with the earlier thing. I just wanted to ask you, what ranking would you give Tenet out of the Nolan verse?
I haven't seen the whole Nolanverse. I haven't seen the last few. I haven't seen Interstellar, and I haven't seen the one before that. Yeah, I haven't seen Dunkirk. Although I heard Dunkirk was pretty good.
You also heard Tenet was pretty good.
I did also hear Tenet was pretty good.
I liked Dunkirk. I also have never seen Interstellar. I never found the 3.5 hours to set aside to watch it.
So Interstellar, man, that's a weird one. I am like the only person I know who doesn't think it's great. I think it's all right.
You don't think it's great?
I don't think it's great.
And you're the only person you know.
Everyone I've heard or talked to
I think
it's
Adam
fantastic.
doesn't think it's great, but I mean, I think Adam thinks it's fine. I think he thinks it's like better
I think you're right.
Tenet. Probably.
Sometimes it's hard with Adam. Well, he hasn't seen Tenet yet.
He has. Adam and I have
saw it together. I'm retarded. I just listened to. Sorry for using the word. How dare you? I know, right? I just listened to Sardonicast today, and so I'm just assuming that was like just now. And of course, that was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, we saw it. That's how I saw it. Adam and I went to a drive-in in Langley, and we just watched it.
How far away is that?
I will not disclose that information.
Oh, fair enough. What's it called? My town's building like a new one here soon. If this ends up being like the long haul, which will be nice. Having said that, though, it's kind of like what I think it was Alex who was saying. Like, I have the same situation. The theater near me, just very fortunately, like every time I go see anything there's like 8 people in the theater, so it's been a lot safer than like a grocery store at this point.
Yeah, it was good. It was interesting. Like the experience. It was literally my first time doing
drive-in.
Yeah, doing like a drive-in.
Yeah,
movie.
I don't think I ever have actually.
If you have a good sound system in your car, it's a pretty good way to watch movies. I've only seen bad movies in drive-ins, but
apparently this is Adam's second. I can't remember what the first was, and I always thought that it was
he told me Mad Max was his first.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Ooh, man, that would be such a good theater movie though. But yeah, that's fair.
It sounds like it'd probably be a good drive-in movie too, with all the cars and shit. I don't know. It was interesting.
You feel like you're in there.
I don't know. It was weird. I always thought it was going into it. I thought it was gonna be like the Flintstones or something. Like I don't have any like reference point for drive-ins where it's like there's some speaker blaring the movie at me. I didn't realize we invented the technology to actually get FM radio going.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure I knew that until Adam told me yesterday either. To be honest.
Oh, you thought there's just a huge speed? Yeah, it would sound like crap.
Like we stop at a gas station on the way, and Adam's like wiping the windshield of his car for the first time I've ever seen. I'm like, why the fuck is he doing this shit? And it's like, because we're gonna watch a movie.
Because we'll be looking through it.
Yeah,
at a movie.
Adam has this insane like preparatory mind where like everything in advance has to be perfect, and it's pretty crazy. But
he's putting in the work. If he's not going to go and see it in like the easiest way to consume, then it's worthwhile putting in the effort to make sure that you're not putting, especially because of his position. I have the same problem where it's like if I'm going to review something, I need to make sure I didn't do things to make the experience worse and then get blamed.
I didn't even tell you about like what we did more. Like he did more than that. Like there was like our radio, like the radio in Adam's car is like it's very like it's got like a light show going on it. Or whatever. Sure. It's like super like spazzy, like you're in a discotheque.
Yeah, I know that.
That's a reference for the kids.
Yeah. For the French kids.
Yes. And he just like
for the French kids from the 1980s.
He had to like open a manual online to figure out how to turn it off demo
mode.
It
was
on like demo
fucking
mode,
light
like,
up shit.
Yeah, and so he just like turned it down. And then we put like a paper towel over it, and then we put paper towel like all over, like we like darkened the car. It was already at night, so it was interesting. It was a weird.
You guys you earned the cred, man. You earned the cred.
Yeah, it was cool. Good.
I saw Transformers. One like that. And
Shout out Michael Bay.
Shout out Michael Bay. That's all I really watch is Michael Bay movies. And I saw what's it called? The first
Transformers 2.
Double
Transformers 3.
No, actually, I think I stopped before Transformers 3. I was like, okay, no more of these. But I saw.
I believe I saw one at the theater, and I think that's all I've ever seen.
Well, I was 17, so I didn't know not to like it. And then
I was 12. I was 8. I hadn't been born yet. Anyway.
Yeah, there you go. No, but what happened was I saw the Incredible Hulk Iron Man double feature I used to live in Nevada, and so they had a what do you call it over there? When those first came out, I guess they were playing those as double features because they knew nobody was going to go see the Incredible Hulk. So.
It's a good way to sell tickets.
Do you get pissed off when people pronounce it Nevada?
You know what? I don't get mad about any of those. All
right.
we're on fire and like it's just
say last year would you
got
get
other
pissed
stuff
off if
going
people said Nevada?
No, not one
It's
bit. I mean,
Nevada.
the only ones
Comments section
the only
of
ones
every
are ones,
video we've ever said that word in.
You know what though? Living in Nevada, I remember a lot of people saying Nevada. Like it's kind of, I live in Colorado and people say Colorado. I think the weirdest ones are like when people say Arkansas.
But that's just objectively wrong.
That's the only one for me. It feels like
that
you're
one's
doing a
not
bit.
debatable.
And then I'm not mad because
I
if
think
I
it's
think you're
debatable,
doing a bit.
but I'm not going to debate it.
Well, if you were going to debate, you could say that there's Kansas and this one is Arkansas.
The problem is, the only problem with Arkansas is that it's right beside Kansas. That's its issue.
But that could be what it is. It's like, hey, this is just Kansas too. Maybe the R means something.
Arkansas.
It's some weird Greek thing, like prefix that we don't know over here.
It's Kansas with a hard R.
Yeah, it's like New York. I've never, I don't know much about Old York.
It's in England.
Well, it's in England.
Yeah.
I know that part.
I think I've been there, actually. I think I've been to York.
Have you been to York?
Or New South Wales.
New South Wales. There's a really
That's
good,
true.
there's a
I
really
guess
good
there is a
Mitchell and
South
Webb,
Wales.
Yes, there is. It's
There's a
I
good
just
Mitchell
showed
and
my
Webb
I just
sketch.
showed that to my buddies like 2 days ago.
literally on that topic. Where it's
Who
like,
has the big hat?
You know what this reminds me of? Wales. It's like
like,
really
what?
this place, this island paradise reminds you
Kangaroos
of like
jumping around.
Cardiff.
Yeah,
And it's like
no, that's
we're gonna call
North
it
Wales.
I'm talking about South Wales.
South Wales.
We'll call this New South Wales.
Oh, excuse me, wait a second. I have the big hat. What does that make
have
me?
a big hat. Sorry, yeah, that's great.
No, they're fantastic. Those guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
so great. David Mitchell is a treasure.
He's pretty amazing.
He's so fantastic. So yeah, have you guys seen The Prestige?
Yes.
I have not.
That
really?
is
Yeah.
relatively early Nolan. It's hard to say
I love
early
it.
Nolan because Memento is so much earlier, but he didn't have a million hits around that time.
I mean, it's not
love
like
Prestige.
their Prestige is what? 05, 06?
Maybe I would say like 06, 07, yeah, something like that, yeah. Because I
And then
remember it came out
Memento's
not
2000?
well. If you think about it, he almost had to do adaptation works to pay for original works, right? So you have, I think it was Batman Begins, and then that funded Prestige, and then you have The Dark Knight, and then that funded Inception.
And then Inception.
And then you have The Dark Knight Rises, and that basically funds Interstellar. And not that it funds it like from the money, but it's like I proved I could do it again, and so my name is still hot, and so now I can go make
earns
this
the
original
next
movie.
one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which Adam was saying, like, Kaufman right now is having a hard time finding backers, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Denis Villeneuve ends up in a similar problem where he keeps winning awards, but the awards aren't necessarily translating into dollars.
Isn't Dune supposed to be coming out soon?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I feel like
Pretty
it
excited for
got.
that.
I'm all kinds of excited for that. In preparation, I just watched the old one again, and it was really interesting seeing the trailer when it dropped because it's very it's like every single thing you see in the trailer you saw in the old movie. It just looks really good. So it's going to be interesting to see how similar of a kind of experience it's going to be. Just theoretically, just what you saw already, but really good. Almost like a digital remaster of like a video game.
I want Hodorowski's Dune.
I don't,
looks-
man. I just watched that.
It looks
absolutely
so
don't
cool
want
and
that.
crazy. I mean, it
man.
might have been bad. Don't get me wrong, but it would not have been boring.
Well, no, it would have been because he said he wanted it to be 12 hours long.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that part.
So I was trying to explain. I was with my roommate watching it, and I was saying how it's like, I love that the Holy Mountain exists, but I don't want Dune to be the Holy Mountain. So that's kind of the problem. Is that like
It's true, and it would have been. It definitely
he
would
was,
have
he
been.
was yeah. The whole documentary, he's making it the Holy Mountain. He decided to do it before he had even read the book. Just his friend told him it was good. And then he was constantly
Hey, this book's good.
changing
Okay, I'll make a movie of it.
Yeah, literally. And then he like cast his son, who wasn't even an actor. He was like 8, and then made him like train jujitsu for like 2 years straight so that he could play ball. It's like the documentary
got
is
Salvador
amazing.
Dali on board.
Yes, they did, and they had to lie to him. It was actually really funny how they were going to swindle him. They were going to swindle the hell out of him. They were like, "Hey." The guy, I guess the producer, asked, what's his name, Hodorowski, how many minutes of screen time do you think he'll actually have? And he was like, oh, something like 5 to 10, minutes. And he's like,
Yeah,
great.
didn't
So
they
he
agree to
went-
pay him $100,000 a minute?
Yes, exactly. So he's
Yeah.
like, we're going to pay you $100,000 a minute. So he thought he was going to make like crazy money, but he doesn't realize
Like
he's
$1 billion.
Yeah, it was so crazy. But I will admit, honestly, he had some points that I really couldn't ignore. They showed a lot of slideshows of art that was in their little like comic book thing, well, gigantic comic book they made.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that imagery. Not all of it. I think some of it was a reach, but some of the imagery was shockingly similar to stuff that in the next 10 years became massive hits. And the fact that they picked up, he picked up Geiger before anyone else was even messing with him. I thought he got Geiger because of Alien, but Alien actually picked up
Because it was
Geiger
pre-Alien, right?
It was pre-Alien. I was like, it was pre-Star Wars. I was like, holy crap. Right. It's kind of shocking. So he had a fair point. Him and his son both said that they feel like his Dune lives in the ecosystem of all sci-fi, where so much sci-fi seems to have borrowed from that. And I don't know, when they showed those shots, those pictures, and then showing like shots from movies that ended up, kind of using things that felt very similar, it was kind of hard not to give some of those credence.
Yeah, I'm just happy the documentary exists because it's awesome.
It's a great documentary. I highly recommend it. It's just called Jodorowsky's Dune. And like Amazon has it for free. I highly recommend everyone go check that out.
It made my top 10 for whatever year it was.
No joke, huh? 17?
13.
No way, it's that old? That's crazy. Okay.
2013. Yep.
Yeah, all right. Well, man, 2013, what else is on there? I don't even feel like I have a strong opinion about 2013.
Let me tell you about 2013.
Yeah.
If you're asking. 2013, you got what? You got 2 Villeneuves. You got Enemy and Prisoners.
Amazing. Man, Prisoners is the... I'm getting so old, man. That felt like that was yesterday.
We're all gonna die very soon, is what I've learned from doing this.
It's like the end
Time
of
is fleeting.
Saving Private Ryan when Matt Damon gets all old.
Yeah, exactly.
God,
you got those.
Yesterday.
You got 12 Years a Slave. You got Blue Jasmine.
What? No
You got
way.
Under the Skin. You got Inside Llewyn Davis. You got Her.
Man, that is a great year.
Yeah,
I just didn't know that. A lot
stuff.
of those movies I probably would have said were like 2016 is the problem. That's why. Yeah, those are great movies. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is
P.S.
that movie?
I just read you most of my top 10.
What is that? I know. Yeah. Spoilers. What's that movie that one of the Coen brothers is making?
That one of them is making.
Yeah. Apparently they're not doing movies together anymore, and so one of them is retired.
Are you thinking of Ethan Coen?
I don't think he's thinking of Ethan Coen.
I think there's an
director of Holmes and Watson.
Oh, is there a guy?
There's a guy named Eaton, E-T-A-N Coen.
And then
I thought it was
that's
Owen.
amazing.
I could be wrong.
Well, that would be so funny if it was
I
Coen.
have no idea.
He should change it to Coen just to try to steal. Yeah, so the Hail Caesar is in theory the last Coen brothers movie, which is very sad because I would have appreciated it more if I knew that.
Buster Scruggs.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't count it. It's not like a movie. I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, it's an anthology.
You should count it. But yeah. Macbeth. I do believe Ethan, I think, is going to make a adaptation of Macbeth, which is going to be... I don't know. I wonder if it's going to be funny. Like, I feel like...
Or if it's just going to be Macbeth.
Right, it's interesting because I could imagine
like that Romeo plus Juliet thing from like I don't
you know what? Screw everybody. I loved it.
Baz
Luhrmann,
baby.
Oh yeah.
Jinx and a Pokey me and Coke. Yes, fantastic.
Yeah, just that, but Macbeth.
Yeah, he does a modern
Have you seen Baz Luhrmann's Great Gatsby?
I have not.
With Leo DiCaprio.
I didn't know that was Luhrmann. Okay,
it's very Luhrmann.
Now that you say it,
I like that movie more than most people do.
I like it. Yeah, it's good.
I'm surprised that didn't become a genre. Anyone else surprised that like the fucking just take public domain Shakespeare works and just turn them into like
they just aren't huge.
Yeah,
just like never heard of any of them.
One of my favorite ones is from Ralph Fiennes. It's Coriolanus, and it's awesome. It's him and what's his face, Phantom of the Opera. It's like one of his least
Gerard Butler.
Movies. Yes, Gerard Butler. And they play the two like opposing forces or whatever, and it's modernized, and it was pretty awesome because the whole story is this guy he's like a general who's won all these wars, but he has no diplomacy, and he ends up getting so fed up with the people that he talks a bunch of shit live, and they end up excommunicating him. So he goes and joins the rebel forces to come back and fuck up Rome. So modernized, it's like this kind of modern warfare situation, doing that with like tanks and guns. And I was like, it's actually pretty cool. And then, but it's all the exact same dialogue. So it's very like Romeo plus Juliet. I think quite a few of those have happened, but none of them were the Baz Luhrmann level. Baz was smart because he was the one who almost invented, if you listen to his commentary track, he'll credit himself with inventing the like big pop song that's used in the movie that then plays on the radio. So it ended up having a whole bunch of market value added to the movie. People seeing it because they're like, "Oh, this is a great new Madonna song. Where is it from? Oh, it's from this movie." And now that gets
the Romeo plus Juliet soundtrack was big. Now that I'm thinking about it,
and a lot of like poppy ones, also a lot of remixes like the When Doves Cry and stuff like that, doing like the choir remix and everything. What was cool about it is that Moulin Rouge is in my S tier of movies. Like I'm in love with that movie. And I used to describe it as Romeo plus Juliet on crack. And then I saw the commentary and he described it exactly the same way. He's like, yeah, this is Romeo plus Juliet times 10. I was like, yes, vindication. Yes. Especially with like their, what do you call it? The pacing is so similar. The first half an hour of both of those movies is a fever dream. And then it slows way down right when both of the lovers meet. And I don't know, very interesting. But I think like Romeo and Juliet is not a perfect movie by any means, but Moulin Rouge I think is insane. Really, really enjoy that film. I was talking about someone too, Princess Bride recently. That's never like gone off my like S tier list since I was like 5 years old.
I saw it for the first time like with Adam like last year maybe.
Oh no shit.
And it was fine. But it was like, but it's like, you know, you don't grow up with it, so you don't have the same like nostalgic connections for like all the lines and shit. Like you see the meme stuff, it's like, all right, that's, you know, I've seen that in memes.
Yeah.
And that's what you associate it backwards, but it's fine. Like it's a fine movie. Like I can totally see how it became very popular. It has a lot of charm to it. It's really
that's
fun
a big
to watch.
I think it's oozing charm.
It's a really good movie.
I also think they did a great job of playing between the line of it's very comedic, but then when they want you to care about something, they do a very good job of making you care, or giving you room to care. There's a lot.
It had believable stakes, which is something that Tenet did not have.
Which
is one of the biggest issues I had with the movie personally.
I know a lot of people. So even listening to Sardonicast, it was like I was pulling the hair out. That's why I have no hair now. I was pulling my hair out, hearing them not like they've only seen it once. And so there's certain things they were confused on, and I've seen it 3 times. So it's like, I know, like, it's like, I don't know what this was about. I'm like, no, that was blah, blah, blah. But it's like, but that's the movie's fault. Like, if you can't get it in one go, like, that's not your fault, you know? Those aren't dumb guys. It's just a complicated movie. Arguably overly complicated.
It's a movie with an interesting concept and an interesting hook that is in itself complicated. Yeah. But then they mix that with what in my opinion is quite a convoluted plot.
You just described Inception to me.
So that's
Nolan,
what
man.
people mean when they say it's Nolan-esque.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, they mean that. They also mean that a lot of people are saying that his sound mixing hasn't been good for a while. So that's part of it.
I didn't mind the sound mixing. We were on FM
what?
radio, and I understood like the whole, like I understood what people were saying. Like there wasn't.
I saw it twice in IMAX though, and then I saw it once in a regular theater, and it was 100 times easier to understand in the regular theater. So I think that's
what I hear. I've heard
depending on that was it. I swear to God, it was like It was like seeing it almost for the first time again. It was like, oh, that's what he's saying right there. I can fucking understand him. Amazing.
Yeah.
I saw Dunkirk in IMAX, and same deal. Like it was tough sometimes.
Well, what's lucky in Dunkirk though is that like almost you can watch that movie on mute. Like there's like almost not any important dialogue in the entire film.
It's not like there's a ton of dialogue versus other Nolan movies for sure.
I enjoyed
I'm going to see one in IMAX. I'm glad it was that.
I enjoyed Inception. I thought Inception was really brilliant.
I absolutely enjoyed Inception. I remember one of the things I was feeling with Tenet was that by the time we got down to, before I hit the last like probably 15, 20 minutes, I remember like, because I was taking notes and I was like, you know, I felt a lot more for these characters in Inception than I am in Tenet, and I'm not getting the same thing. It did win me over in like the last actual like 15 minutes. There was a rapid fire of payoffs that made me start totally
like in the last and like the very end where everyone's shooting at each other, or when the boat
after that. So the boat scene's part of it, and then the conversation between Neil and the protagonist, like that stuff tied a lot of things together that made me actually give a crap. Before that, because you know that was the thing in Dunkirk was it was almost a movie with no characters, which is a very interesting way to make a movie. Everyone, and he explained this himself. Everyone is an archetype, like they represent a character. So the one guy on the beach represents everyone who was on the beach. You know, the guy in the plane represented the entire Air Force, and so that's an interesting way to do it. And this movie, I felt like was getting into that kind of area. What do you think about John David Washington as an actor?
I haven't seen him. I didn't see him. I didn't see Black Klansman, which I think he was in. So I haven't seen him.
He was good in Black Klansman. I liked him.
It was the only performance that in the film that felt a little stilted for me.
That was me too.
Like it
I
was
thought
the
he was
line,
better than I thought he would be.
Yeah, I mean, what else? I think he was doing exactly what he was told to do, which was to deliver a very like straight man, like blank canvas type, like like Neo from the Matrix.
Until he had to be a little snarky. There was definitely a little Will Smith-ism.
The only the snarkiness didn't land at all. There was one line I remember.
Yeah.
But I also thought the dialogue was really clunky and actually bad in some parts.
That's Nolan-esque.
There was one part where he's talking with Michael Caine, and he says, the British don't have a monopoly on snobbery. And then Michael's like, it's not a monopoly, it's more of a vested interest. Because he can't understand anything Michael Caine says. But I mean, that line just didn't land well. Because he was just doing straight man all the time. And all of a sudden he's like, no, I'm charming. And
well,
like,
but before
Bond,
that,
it's like, that's not what
right in that same scene, though, almost all the lines are kind of him doing that, right? Like he's doing
that scene is like written differently from the rest of the film.
Hey, can you box that up for me?
It felt like they just wrote that scene because he's having a conversation with Michael Caine. It's the only scene with Michael Caine in it for context.
Well, he does it with
it felt like it was written separately from the rest of the film.
He does it with Elizabeth Debicki though too.
A little bit.
He's having a conversation and you won't be able to take my call, and he's like, oh, I might surprise you. Like there's those kinds of there are little jokes. I think that this was Nolan's best attempt at making a Bond film.
I think so. You know what? I didn't know anything about the movie going into it. I went in completely blind, knowing absolutely nothing.
You thought it was about David Tennant.
Yes, I did. I thought it was about David Tennant.
With one.
I thought it was a Doctor Who biopic.
I was really looking forward to that. And I was a little disappointed by what the plot turned out to be. Like it was like this kind of espionage globe-trotting Bond film, Jason Bourne, like it's like, and I was like, and it's just like the only hook that makes it different, the only thing that differentiates it was the cool inversion time travel stuff, right?
I think that's what the movie suffers from the most. Oh, sorry, keep going.
And like that stuff looks good on paper.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, didn't execute well on screen, because I felt like some of it was great. Like some of the practical effects were really great, like classic Nolan. Like the car chase scene was really enjoyable to watch, in my opinion.
I like a lot of the hangar stuff. I thought that was very. A lot of it too for me is thinking about how to film.
The stuff in the hangar was weird to me. I didn't fully appreciate it. I think it was a bit claustrophobic, and I didn't like the camera work was weird, especially like the fight scenes between like a normal person and a quote unquote inverted person. And Adam phrased it in a way that I thought was really good, where he said it's impossible to tell like who's exerting force. You know what I'm saying? Like he's fighting himself. And it's like they're always like, who's actually like it's like they're not really fighting, they're just dancing.
Well, they weren't. Well, they weren't because you can see it with he had to fight backwards if he was the forward guy. So the problem is that he's not sending forward a punch. He's having his fist start at you, and then he's pulling back a punch. So when you play that forward, you see that lack of force. And seeing it 3 times, it sticks out more the more you watch it, because you know what you're looking for.
So you have this idea. Yeah. So you have this idea, which is really good on paper, but then when you try to film it, it's like it doesn't always work. Some of the stuff on paper is great. The car stuff, I think the reason the car stuff works better is because it's macro. It's like bigger, so you can get behind the physics a little bit more easily. And simpler, exactly. It'll move in 1 or 2 directions. Whereas like with people, like with people like
little
fighting,
intricacies.
Yeah, there's like a lot of detail that just ends up getting messy, and but that was fine. Like Adam had a really big problem with that. That was a big problem for Adam, moving the same way that he had issues with Looper with very like he had issues with that reminded me of like his issues with Looper in the sense that there was stuff like, well, if you're already fine at the beginning of the fight, then you have nothing to lose, right? Because it's like you're not going backwards from the thing, and I'm like, I don't care.
I think yeah.
Like, anyway, I don't really care about that stuff at all. Like, I'm willing to give all that stuff a pass, because I think it's like, they were going for something experimental, and some of it worked and some of it didn't. I really don't really care to think that much about the physics of it any more deeply than that. My problem was really with the story, like the plot, the characters, the writing. Like, it was
with
like
what you were saying earlier, I think that's where the movie suffers from the most. Is that the problem is that he had a really interesting, well, in my opinion, I thought it was pretty interesting, a cool hook idea he wanted to do, but there's so much to that a huge portion of the movie is sacrificed in service of just getting that stuff going. So then you have to now try to have this through line of a normal plot with like normal characters that people care about, and it's difficult because you've just spent so much real estate in the film of just setting up this like rule system. It kind of like, Primer has a lot of these same kinds of issues. Primer could have been twice as long, and we could have had a bit more of a structured forward storyline with character. If you watch the deleted scenes, there's a lot of scenes that are like character development scenes that had to get cut for time. So it's like one of the characters behaves kind of like he has OCD, and they actually had more scenes showcasing that he literally does have OCD. He also has diabetes, and that's kind of maybe where he got his OCD, is from having to be so regimented with like his timing of taking insulin shots and stuff like that. So that's why he behaves that way. Those are some of the things that had to get lost because Primer is such a fucking bear. There's so much, to fit into this movie to just get it to where I can't play with the toy if I don't know what the toy is. So we have to spend a lot of time. Like, did you notice? I felt like in the first half an hour of the movie, we're flying. I could not believe how fast it was moving. Like, we're boom, new scene, boom, new scene, new set.
Yeah,
now we're talking to someone else.
It had again like this Bond quality to it, where it's like it's like very globe-trotty, which is like what I associate with James Bond films. Like, you're always like changing set pieces. You're changing scenery a lot. You're never like stuck in one place.
Yeah, I get
that. And like that was okay for the beginning of the movie, but then it just became the whole movie to some extent. And like there's just so many scenes where it's like, so now we're in Austria, and now we have to go back to America. Now we're going to go back to India to talk to this arms dealer. Now we're going to go back to Austria. Now we're going to go back to India. And it's like, just settle for like 10 seconds. And it's
Settle
not like
down.
it's not like they're doing this and every time they go, they're showing us like amazing cinematography. It's like every time they go to a new location, it's just two people walking down the street and talking for like such, and it became like a punchline. Like
some of them almost could have been phone calls too.
Yeah, or like people sitting down at a coffee shop or something. Like it just felt like he did it in order to prevent having too many stale scenes of people sitting down and talking. But the result of that, ironically, was a lot of stale scenes of people walking and talking. In Inception, I feel like Inception did everything this movie was trying to do much better, because like I think one of the biggest issues with this movie, which is what I said, this is, I don't know, I was just ranting in the car. So this is just my rant thoughts from the first conversation we had, but. Like in Inception, the beginning of the film, you immediately know what the film's about. It's like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We need to plant an idea into this person's mind, and then that's that, and it's just a sentence. And I can explain to you in a sentence. This is what we're trying to do, and that's the plot. And then the rest of the movie, literally, like the next two acts are just someone doing that, are just the characters in the movie doing that. They're motivated. We know what their motivations are because we know what they're trying to achieve, and it gets layered. And then you can layer that cake as much as you want because you have like a solid, easy foundation that everyone can follow. And this movie, it's not until like the end of Act 2 till you get. He's gonna destroy the world and himself with it. It's like, and it's like, and now we have to stop. And now we have to stop him, right? And it's like, finally, at the end of Act 2, you have like a big, this is what our characters are all trying to achieve. And up until that point, it's like no one knows what they're after. Well, it's like even the main characters, like,
it's like a mystery. I'm literally just on a mission to find out what the mission is.
Yeah, and that's and in Inception, it works great. Because it's like you have a complicated concept, like you have again on paper this concept that's kind of complicated. So so the vehicle for that concept needs to be like a simple and interesting and engaging plot, right? In this, you have this convoluted plot and this high fantasy concept, and they don't work together. You can't have that. You have to have like a simple. It's the same way you do Inception. Just have a simple goal that all the characters are trying to achieve, and then use that to motorize your really high concept stuff.
I think if you want an even worse example of what you're talking about, I think it's Interstellar. Like, these were the problems I had with Interstellar, where to me it felt almost like I was watching an episode of The Cosmos, and then they were trying to like slap on a drama inside of it.
Like Carl Sagan?
Yes, the new one with like Neil deGrasse Tyson, because that one's like super lots of very very CGI heavy, and it's like, look at how awesome space is, and that's what this felt like. It felt like it would have been my favorite Discovery Channel documentary about space and talking about time dilation on different planets and stuff like that. That was really interesting. A homie has to hop off on like a small jumper pod from the main spaceship, get on some planet that's near a black hole, so he's only there for like an hour, but when he comes back, the dude's been stuck on the ship for like a year, and things like that.
Right.
That's that. So, but then last minute, almost, it feels like now you're trying to fit in all of these little character beats that just didn't land for me at all. Anne Hathaway gets complained about a lot, not because necessarily her, but this like her role in the film, a lot of her dialogue, that they gave her. It was like, this would have been more enjoyable as an episode of The Cosmos.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny because like I haven't seen Tenet, but all the broad issues you have with Tenet sound exactly like the issues I have with Inception. Like Inception to me is such like I wanted to love it, but it's such. I don't know if wasted opportunity is too strong a term, but like, because, and the same as you said, like complicated, high concept
stuff. Yeah.
But I didn't like the execution at all, and it totally took me out. Like the way they portray dreams, besides the one thing from the trailer with like the buildings folding in.
You're right, they don't do a lot with that,
changing.
do they?
But like besides that, they're all just like very straight ahead video game levels. Like here's the ice world.
Totally,
like dreams are fucked up.
No,
and there was
You're right. They could have done more.
little fucked upness. I'm like, have you?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I understand because Christopher Nolan is 1,000% autistic, and I believe he does not have dreams, so he doesn't know what they are. So he's just kind of guessing at it. So I mean, respect for trying, but. And then there's all kinds of plot holes and stuff too, with where they lay out like how the time is relative to each one in each successive step, but then it doesn't really work out if you look at it. So there's all that stuff, but that bugs me less than the way dreams were portrayed, and I just thought it was a huge,
I think sometimes
huge
he suffers from. I think because he tries to do such big concepts that don't have a lot of points of reference for us to pull from. He would do well to spend more time in these worlds with like multiple movies. If Inception had 3 movies, because I remember even feeling like he had created kind of an interesting world. I want to see a movie about extraction. You could have done that first. In the movie, they have to set up what extraction is and then say it's old hat, even though we've never seen it. And then they set up what Inception is. It's the weird thing. And it's like, well, extraction's already the weird thing for us. So we could have started with just an extraction movie, just about.
I kind of wish he would go back and do like small scale stuff, like Memento and Insomnia were both like small scale movies, and they were really enjoyable. Honestly, like
they're great.
Obviously, I love Memento. I think
Memento's
we all
awesome.
think it's his best film. I think we all do.
I don't.
You don't.
I very much so enjoy it. I prefer a lot of his. I prefer a lot of his stuff over Memento. Honestly, I think one of the big sufferings. I had the same complaint that Ebert had, which was that it is a very, very not very interesting movie forward. And so he gets a lot of value out of the fact that it is backwards. But once you kind of know what happened, you're like, oh, that's all it was. Like, I didn't think that Trinity was a very strong character in my opinion.
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yes,
her real name. Trinity.
Yeah, Trinity, her real name. And but it's good. I definitely really enjoy it. But it's it also to me I think it has some just generic kind of growing pain issues of like early work and not as big budgets or whatever. I think I enjoy a lot of his other. Now, enjoying
The Prestige
Inception,
might be my favorite. Prestige or Memento?
The Prestige was one of my favorite movies for like 10 years straight.
Yeah, it's great.
Really enjoy that film, and I also think just command performances from everyone involved, which helped a lot. Michael Caine is fantastic in that movie, and I really enjoy. I think it's probably Christian Bale's best work for me because I don't think in general I don't really like Christian Bale all that much.
It's up there. I mean, he's a delight in American Psycho.
He is quite nice in that.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, no, for sure. That man, someone's got to revisit that book. Someone's got to remake that.
Which one?
I think there's more. American Psycho.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot more you could do with that movie. The movie is damn near PG-13. And the book was like banned for a while. So it's like the other one too is like I would love to see the Blood Meridian. And that's another one that like someone with some big old hairy brown balls would have to make that because it's not an easy watch. It's not an easy watch at all. And then it would also have to be someone who isn't Eli Roth though. That's the hard part.
Have they? Oh, I didn't even know. Did they do a Blood Meridian movie?
No. I'm just saying that like it would be low hanging fruit for a guy like Eli Roth.
Okay,
like,
right.
I'm gonna make it like hostile and completely lose any of the subtext and just make it gory. And it's like that's not necessary. It needs to be gory. It has to be gory. But so much of that movie is the symbolism, and who the characters represent is everything. That literally is the entire story. Is every character represents. It's that same thing we're talking about with Dunkirk, right? Like the priest represents almost like all religion. The judge represents in essence like Satan, and the kid represents like humanity, so like these things. And so when they do things that seem really extreme, it's a representation of how just mankind acts in general. It's like a critique on all of mankind, which Dune, we're gonna get that same kind of thing, right? It's like it's a lot about bureaucracy and capitalism, and
I'm thinking of like who would direct American Psycho now. I'm thinking of David Robert Mitchell, who did like Under the Silver Lake and It Follows and stuff. I think he would be good for that because like it is so quintessentially like an 80s postmodern critique.
Yeah.
100%. Oh yeah.
That like I feel like and so it requires both like a good handle on on that kind of period and being able to make films that are like nostalgic in a sense, and also like subtext and criticism. And I feel like you could probably marry those things quite well.
One thing that was cool is that is it Bret Easton Ellis who wrote that?
Who did what now?
American Psycho?
Yes.
It was him? Okay, yeah. I always get him confused with someone else. He brought up a really interesting point about how it was he grew up very waspy, and so he wanted to kind of tell a story about some of the things that rich people go through, that just it's a lens into a world that the layman doesn't, the working class doesn't have access to. And he said he was afraid to admit that for a long time because he didn't want people thinking he was admitting to like wanting to murder people. But there's a lot of things, so much about that story aside from the murder is the substantially more interesting parts. The part where the people are so similar to each other that he doesn't even mind that his girlfriend is cheating on him with one of his friends because his friend is so similar. It feels like he's the same person.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of critique.
It's almost Kafkaesque.
Almost. No, honestly, really,
the loss of identity to a sense.
100%, I think so.
To an ocean of faceless man. Yeah, no, it's
and loss of identity to the point where he basically, I always describe Patrick Bateman as a character like he's like a baby who is born without a soul. It's like he doesn't know exactly what's wrong with him, but he's completely missing empathy.
He's completely hollow and sort of knows that, but sort of just goes with it.
Well, and hates it. Well, I don't think he does go with it. I think he's trying his damnedest to fit in everything about him, and that's why it's funny because it's like this ultimate Atlas kind of pain of infinitely trying to emulate being a human so perfectly that he's actually better at it than most of his friends are, but it's not enough. It doesn't get him close to actually feeling like a real human, and his friends are pulling it off, and so it's killing him because like I wear the Oliver People glasses, I wear the Armani clothes, I listen to the newest Mariah Carey not Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston album, the new, like in the book so that section when he's do you like Huey Lewis in the news, and he brings out the axe and is talking to what's his face, Jared Leto. In the book, that's a whole chapter of him just talking about Genesis.
Yeah, in the book, there's like a whole chapter that just describes like the furniture in his room. It's such a story about like the relationship between like man and objects, and like the value that you assign to the objects around you and how they identify and how you identify with them, and they end up identifying you. Like it's such an amazing. It really is like a brilliant postmodern idea. Yeah. Like, it just reminds me of what used to be good about the 80s. This kind of like this kind of like really deep contemplative literature. It's this kind of like really deep philosophy. Like today it's still experimental. And I think it's going to take like maybe another 5 to 10 years before we kind of, maybe even longer, before we see like the fruits of today's like kind of modern like postmodernism get really analyzed and critiqued and depicted in film and literature at a broader extent. But
and for us it's going to be like social media too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's going to have an effect.
It'll be a lot of it because those 80s ones were a lot about like if you Wall Street in those, it was kind of about like consumerism. And I think with us it's going to be a lot more about how we became the completely disconnected people who were more connected than we've ever been via the internet, but less connected in real life. It's going to be
like maybe the objects of like 80s Patrick Bateman, like the couch and the glasses and the business cards are today's, and it's just how we view ourselves with respect to someone else's tweets or the attention of people who are more important than us. It's like
his album collection is our Twitter followers or whatever.
Follow or likes.
Yeah, or like who likes us, like that guy over there, like he's important to me.
I've been listening to Lex Friedman a lot. He works on AI systems.
Elon Musk tweeted at me, like that kind of thing.
Exactly, that kind of thing. No, you're right. Yeah, no, 100%. And he's been bringing up how he's like he was talking to another guy who was working on engineering for AI, and they were saying one of the things we have to start thinking about is like, Elon Musk, for instance, is the one who made this statement where he's talking about how the companies that have the highest limbic system response are the ones who are doing the best. And so Twitter and things like that, it's things that are basically directly feeding dopamine into your brain. And the engineers are being incentivized to do it like that because in a world of free, every app is free, so I just have to get your attention to get you to download me so that we can run ads. So all of the apps are just focused on trying to get dopamine into your brain to get you addicted to it. So it's likes and follows and things like that. It's like, ooh, I posted this page. Like, I mean, you'll talk to little kids who sound like they have mental illness where they're like, oh yeah, like I posted a selfie and it didn't get enough likes in the first hour, so I deleted it. And it gets you like neurotic.
It's the attention economy. It's the attention. I mean, it's not their fault. It's kind of like
it's not. That's what I'm saying.
Society's fault.
So what he was saying, it's kind of the programmer's fault, you know. And so he was saying that he's like, we need to.
Well, it's not his fault because he's just doing what the businessman's telling him to do.
Certainly, right.
And it's not, you know, and you can keep going up, right?
And
it's
it wasn't the Nazis' fault; they were just doing what Hitler told them to.
Oh god.
And no, but there's something to this where I think he was saying that like in the future there should be a little bit more effort into what do we want the relationship between these apps and people to be, and think of different ways to try to engender these relationships. Because I do think that the likes and even Donald Glover was talking about how he hates how everything is turned to just upvotes or downvotes. Like there used to be like star systems on things, and now it's like I love it or I hate it. You know?
Yeah, it's weird that everything has been like oversimplified that way, because Netflix used to do 1 to 5, I think. And now it's just yes or no.
Like, yeah, it's
everything's pass fail.
Because it's easier to feed that to an algorithm because like
because
you're no longer a person. This is the thing. You are now a no, it's true because you're a demographic. No. So the demographic of people are generally going to give you like the same kind of result over a film. Mm-hmm. So your algorithm can easily take that information and just data crunch it, right? 100%. So it's like it's you know it doesn't basically it's not because like they don't interested in that information of how much you like the film. It's because it actually makes such a small difference like as far as the algorithm's concerned. Mm-hmm. That you know might as well just have it like a very easy like yes or no thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and same with like Rotten Tomatoes, how it's entirely pass fail because like every reviewer can give a movie 6 out of 10, and that equals 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, which is dumb. Which is why like at least Metacritic is a little more nuanced that way.
For sure. The thing, too, is I also think we need to have a different relationship with reviewers anyway. You know, I don't listen to Adam to get to his review score and then figure out what that number was and decide if I want to see the movie. I want to hear the nuance of the points he's making, you know, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. That makes me want to go see it, or that makes me not want to go see it. Or I already know based on the aggregation of different reviews you've done that you tend to feel a certain way about one thing that I know that I feel differently, so I can kind of ignore that part. But if we try to reduce that down to just me going on IMDb and looking at what a score number is, like that's the number. I think that's not necessarily that's not what we should be trying to get from reviewers anyway, you know, so that's already like a bad system in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. It depends on what you mean by bad though. It's good for people who don't care about any of that stuff and just wanna like go to Netflix and go like that movie got a lot of good review. I'm just gonna watch that. You know what's funny? My mom watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things by herself without me telling her about the film. And then she was like, "Hey, have you seen this movie? I'm Thinking of Ending Things." I'm like, whoa, when did you watch this?
I have. Why have you?
Yeah, I was like, how did you? And she was like, I saw it on Netflix, and then I looked up the director and I saw that he did like Eternal Sunshine and all that stuff and Synecdoche, and like I'd shown her Synecdoche, which she didn't like, but she was like, okay, now I know this guy's a good director according to my son, so
Synecdoche almost doesn't want you to like it.
Yeah, but now that she watched and really loved I'm Thinking of Ending Things, I kind of want to take her back to Synecdoche and like have her because I think like now it's
like if she's open to I'm Thinking of Ending Things, then like it's not much of a leap to Synecdoche.
I didn't think she would like it, but she loved it. Like I didn't think she would like it. I think other things because she didn't like Synecdoche, right? So that was the thing. But it's interesting that like the system is doing its job in that sense. Like the system is not catering towards people with very fine tastes on things. Like we have a very
it's lowest common denominator for sure.
But that's one way to think about it. But then you have to go and you have to buy like a new like hair clipper or something, right? And you don't know anything. Maybe not Chad, but maybe Scott has to get a new hair clipper.
No, also not Scott, but for the opposite reason.
All right.
No, Chad would. I use
different example.
Chad way more than Scott actually.
Yeah. I wear mine out. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. Yeah, so you have to get a new hair clipper, and I don't know anything about cutting hair at all, like zero, right? So I'm going purely based on the Amazon score. Like I go on Amazon, it's like which one has the most positive reviews? That one, I'll get that one. Right? Like, it's like, I'm not doing any more than that because I don't care. I just want something that works, right?
I get the analogy, but I think the complexity of the items matter, though.
Well, it's that except for movies for some people.
Right? I get what you're saying, but I think those are hard to make a 1-for-1 for because I think the complexity of the experience you want to get out of the thing is very different. And that's a good thing, too.
Not necessarily. Some people just want to put something on.
Some people do. Some people just want something, and they might not even be entirely paying attention to it. It might be a background movie, but 1-to-1, like one's a thing that serves a function and one is art. So they are kind of different.
Hardly.
Well, and again, though, you could see a lot of that.
Art,
but from a barber, you could see a lot of the same behavior.
Exactly. For a barber, a clipper is art, right? It's like the best clipper. You have to get your,
But also, he's not just looking for that aggregated
sockets
thing.
or
He will
whatever.
be trying to find like reviews and people talking about it, watching videos of someone using it and showing the features.
Some
that they
people
like.
do more, yeah.
Because I'm into 3D printing and stuff like that. I've been researching all day because there's the company I use apparently just put a new one out like a couple weeks ago or something like that. So I'm like watching all these videos. I want to see like examples and stuff versus some guy who's like a dad.
Have they figured out how to print anything besides guns and dildos yet, or are we still kind of on that?
I do miniatures a lot. I play Warhammer.
Oh,
And
shit.
so I have like these kind of guys. I don't print the whole minis most of the time. I don't know if you can see these guys, but what happens is I'm printing.
Sick.
I'll break a piece or lose it or something like that. So then I print all because I also do 3D like modeling. I used to do like independent video game stuff when I was a bit younger, and I kind of got out of that. Well,
I like it. Did you paint it as well?
I did, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, dude,
cool.
GW is such a funny company because they're like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sell the most overpriced minis in the world. And then we're going to make you motherfuckers build them and you got to paint them.
You
Suck
do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I love it. It's like, it's the worst. I don't know, I have a disease or something, but it is.
Yeah, there's like different degrees of care and attention that people put into different things. Like I play video games a lot,
Sure.
and so like the gear that I get that's video game related, I put more thought into than a hair clipper. Right? It's
Yeah,
like
for
I
sure.
want like if I'm looking at a keyboard, I want black switches because I like black switches, and like there's only a few companies that there's some companies that I trust more than others. If I want to get a paper shredder, which I have in the past, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want a thing that eats paper, right?
As long as it shreds that paper.
If I want to listen to music, which is a form of art, let's try to make this analogy work. Well, obviously, a lot of us just listen to the same music over and over again because it's music that we like. But I do obviously listen to new music sometimes. For that, like, it depends. Like, I don't actually listen to music critics, like, because I generally don't agree with them. I
Yeah,
don't
me
know, it's
neither.
weird. I haven't found one that I really am like, yes, that guy's, it's more like friends will send me things that they like or that they might know that I like, or I'm just browsing like something that I already like, and then the algorithm spits something out through the radio and be like, try this, and I'm like, that works, and then I just like it.
I
And
feel like
it's-
that works better than with movies for some reason. I feel like Netflix
But that's
doesn't
a
understand me
thumbs
as well
up and
as
thumbs down
Spotify
system
does.
too, right?
I know,
Like-
that's what I'm saying. I don't know why it seems like I don't know. It just feels like it's better. Maybe I'm less critical of music, but I feel like I'm also a huge music head. And the stuff I don't like, I really don't like, so I feel like movies and music are almost tied for me. The biggest difference is that I used to make music and I've gotten I'm more interested in making movies. So right now I'm in a position in my life where I'm more critical of movies. But yeah, it's very, I don't know. It's just, I have so many less
Yeah, it's a
complaints
weird
about
thing.
like Spotify algorithm work than I do with like movie aggregation stuff. Cause it constantly, Netflix will be like, oh, you might like, I'm like, no, of course not. What the fuck?
Yeah, I think we're all in weird places, right? Like I don't. Most movies I get through just Adam, like being like, "You want to watch this?" I'm like, "Sure." Recently,
It helps to live with a critic.
It does. That's the thing. Is like I have no objective way of knowing other than how my parents and my people who are not necessarily like listening to Adam do the movie thing. There's a group of friends that I know now who are not related to Adam at all or anything with the community who have started their own like movie nights for things like Airplane and Naked Gun and like classic films, and we did Kung Fu Hustle the other day. So I'm now doing like a side.
Before you said Kung Fu Hustle, I was like, for all kinds of stuff, but only Leslie Nielsen movies.
But only Leslie Nielsen movies. No, my friend really likes Leslie Nielsen movies, so he wants us to watch them all.
Some of them are fantastic.
Yeah, no,
And some aren't, but
fun.
some
And
are
some
great.
aren't.
So
Airplane's awesome. I fucking love
that's
Airplane.
Airplane 1 and 2 are amazing.
Yeah. Like Airplane in terms of like jokes per minute, I don't know if you can beat it besides maybe some early Mel Brooks stuff.
Well, it's those kinds of movies though, because it's those brothers who kept making all those movies. Or I don't know if they're brothers, but they're friends.
Yeah, I
the
think
Zucker brothers.
Zucker? Yeah.
Yep, it's David and Jerry Zucker. They also did like Top Secret and stuff like that. Like those guys, I don't think those shoes were filled when they left. And I guess the Scary Movie franchise that never ended was kind of the thing, like date movies and stuff like that. And those are like pale in comparison.
Probably like Xavier
yeah.
Renegade Angel comes close in terms of pace of like how
pace,
jokes per
Yeah,
minute.
yeah,
that'll
that's a pretty frantic pace of
I don't
jokes
know. I
too.
think pace, you can hit a few. I think that like all of your Frisky Dingo and Archer and like Venture Brothers, I think a lot of those can hit you on pace. It's just that style, that not mockumentary, what do you call that? Like those
Satire thing.
Parody.
yeah, those parody satire movies. Like I think that it was kind of just Seltzer and Freeberg making all of those like date movie and epic movie and God, those are like
Those masterpieces.
oh right, I know.
I saw about 15 minutes of I think, epic movie.
Dude, that's so funny. Me too, yeah.
And I consider it one of the worst movies I've ever seen, having only seen 15 minutes of it.
Well, it's like
if you ask me for a top 10 worst, that might be on it.
Red Letter Media brought up a great point because they just reviewed UHF like a handful of months ago. And they were talking about how one of the things that helped with UHF is that, well, not even just UHF, Weird Al in general. Weird Al would make references to things that were such big blockbusters that 20 years later, they're still relevant. If you go watch his music video for Bad, Michael Jackson's Bad is still just like this huge song. So everyone
still Michael Jackson. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so UHF, except for a couple of parts, most of the references are actually still pretty like, okay, I get that. With the Seltzer and Freeberg movies, those ones are so difficult because
they're so of the time,
dude, of the week. Like by the time they came out, some of those references were dated already. Like you'd literally, the movie would release, and you're like, oh, you're referencing a commercial that was popular 6 months ago. Like what the fuck? So those are tough because you watch those now, they're almost like period pieces. It's like there's no time that this could have taken place except for exactly 2003.
This week in 2007.
Yes, you really could. Same thing with I remember hearing that first about Kick-Ass, that Kick-Ass was a period piece. It was like the year it came out was the only year it could have come out. You know, it's like the last year of MySpace being relevant, you know, those kinds of things. Like there was a lot of references and things that happened, technology things that happened. That was another movie we talked about earlier where it's like, I had by the way, how long did it take for you to recognize Kick-Ass and Tenet?
To recognize Kick-Ass in Tenet? I did not.
It took you till just now.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
When homie calls the cavalry and that other guy shows up who becomes a character all of a sudden, that dude is Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it took me until they were doing the briefing.
I actually didn't enjoy Kick-Ass that much. I saw it once.
No, me neither. Yeah,
forgot most of it. So.
Yeah, well, the reason I was bringing it up a second ago, it's one of my go-to examples for movies that don't know how to do. It was like, so I was saying Princess Bride was good at when it wanted to have levity, it had levity, but when it wanted you to care, you cared, or it gave you the room to care. Right. Kick-Ass, I didn't feel like did a good job of that. There would be a lot of very serious scenes that it would undercut with a joke, and now you're like, well, I wanted to care, but now you've made a fart joke.
Violent tone shifts. Yeah.
That don't work. Sometimes they work. I've seen some where it can work. You're like, oh,
doesn't that happen like a lot of Korean cinema? Like, I feel like, or like some foreign cinema where they have like, you know, violent tone shifts, and it's like that worked somehow.
Well, yeah, like in the a lot of Bong Joon-ho stuff. Like the Host has tons of tone shifts.
Yeah,
and it
the
works
Host
great.
is what I was thinking of.
I haven't seen The Host.
It's really good. It's really, really good.
Because I don't think
not the Stephanie Meyer one, whoever directed that one.
I mean, watch both, but for different reasons.
The 18, The Host. You know, that might be that's probably my first 5 things I ever saw from Adam. I think the first thing I saw from him was his long review on Death Race. He did like all the death races or something. I think that was the first thing I saw. But no, with Bong Joon-ho, like Snowpiercer, I don't really. It's got it, but they're not violent. I think they give some room to breathe for the tone changes. And I don't think any movie should be just like straight serious the entire time. I think it is important to give it dynamics like you would with a song.
Yeah.
But how violent the shifts can be different. I'm just trying to think of like even Parasite, you know, I don't necessarily feel like it definitely didn't hurt anything. There wasn't a point where I was like, oh, this is funny. Well, and it almost works that way. I don't mind necessarily if this moment's funny and then we go real serious. That can be a good slap in the face to like wake you up to something. What I hate is when it's like, I'm supposed to feel like I want to cry and then someone does like a fart joke. You see this in like Disney movies because they are like,
they're too scared. Yeah, they're scared to keep it going too long.
Yep. It happened with straight. It's literally like someone comes up and grabs your hand and goes, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
It's okay.
Here, let me squish this toy in front of your face. I felt like that. I remember I watched, I went with my friends to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And that happened like 4 times in the movie where it made me like viscerally angry. I was like, just let the moment breathe. Like for a second, like these are still characters. They need something. Like
I love the way I'm thinking of ending things did it. Especially like, you know, because you have this hanging, just doom just throughout the whole film. And then at the end, you have this exhale, just like this, you know, amazing, you know, dance sequence at the high school. And that was the most liberating thing. Like, oh, that was so good. And it's like, that's an example of a way you can do it really well. Because you're expecting like like you said, like, a death or something, or like something awful to happen.
More doom.
And it's like all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere and slaps you in the face, but it's like the opposite, right? Because a lot of times it's the other way around, where you have something really funny or lighthearted, and then it gets really serious all of a sudden, and then you have to.
Then they bring it down on you.
Yeah.
It's like it's so rare for it to happen the other direction in that way, and for it to work, like outside of a Disney film or something, right? So
well, for it to work is the key. Yeah. So like Melancholia, right? It was just too much. Actually, it was too much melancholy. Like that movie needed, I think, some breaks.
I haven't seen it.
It was so hard to care because it's just such a, well, it's kind of like, okay, so Warhammer, right? The whole shtick with Warhammer is like, in the future, like there is only war, it's grimdark. Everything is the shittiest version of whatever you could imagine. And it works for the game, and it's an infinitely interesting lore. I would love to see an HBO show about it, but they would have to make some tone adjustments because it would just be too much. You'd get to the point where you're like, I have no hope. There's no hope in this universe, and it's very difficult to give a crap about what's happening if there's absolutely no hope.
Right.
You just get to where, like, can we just skip to where everyone dies? Like, they're all dying. And that's literally Melancholia. Like, they open it up with, like, these people are going to die. Oh, you know what? Dude, it's great counterexample is, the French Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Is that...
Right.
What is that?
Steve Carell?
Yep. Steve Carell and Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
And the opening, the very opening of the movie, Steve Carell's in the car with his wife, and you hear on the radio that it's Armageddon, right? It's the astronauts who are supposed to go and save us from this asteroid. The ship exploded. They all died. So we're all going to die in approximately like 3 weeks. There's nothing we can do. It's too late. And the whole rest of the movie is them on this world, while they know that they're going to die. And at the end of the movie, they fucking die. And so that's all, it's a straight line. And that movie's amazing. I love it. But the dynamics, right? It's like, it's mostly, I don't know, a drama comedy kind of thing. Almost a rom-com.
I have seen Melancholia. I haven't seen Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Seeking a Friend for the End of the World always seemed like, like more palatable Melancholia. I think I was in the right mood when I saw Melancholia, because I like that a lot.
It works for you? Okay. Well, what I will say is that I haven't said anything about the cinematography, and it has got very stunning visuals that are very interesting, and they do a lot of cool, interesting things with the score and with the cinematography. So if you watch it for nothing other than that, I think that if you had that headspace in mind, then you won't mind that the movie is like just this dour, never like picks up kind of thing.
I was good with that.
Fair enough. I get that, but like Seeking a Friend, like there's there's a lot of levity in the movie. What's his face? Patton Oswalt is in it talking about how like, yeah, dude, like I'm a fat guy, but girls will just sleep with me. It's awesome because, the world's ending. They're going to die soon. But then like right after that scene, they're at a party and one of the guys keeps trying to get Steve Carell laid. And he's like, I'm not interested. No, it's not the guy. It's his wife. And she's like, I just don't want him to die alone. And it just like, they totally take like the air out of the scene. And his friend is like, everyone's going to die alone. Like, we're all going to die alone, like, soon. And these kinds of moments that, like, sober you up, we're like, oh, fuck, yeah, I forgot. They're all going to die soon. Like, this sucks. Like, and part of and I think a lot of the gut punch of the movie is like him and Keira Knightley fall in love during this time period where it's like, we're all about to die and we just found each other, and it's like, if we had found each other earlier, this would be better. But he brings up the counterpoint that, like, it never would have worked. It never would have happened. Like, it had to be exactly this. And this 1 week we got together is, like, has to be enough. So it's funny because
if it was a Charlie Kaufman movie, it would explore why the relationship fails, like in the future. It's like why it's not just that this is the only week that it could have happened, but it's the only good week of the relationship, really. Like the relationship will only sour in the future and it'll break down like everything does, like a used car.
Eternal Sunshine, right?
That's great. I love that.
Charlie Kaufman hates people, right?
I think he does, yeah. I think that's his
that
problem.
From the last few, like even the last two, like Anomalisa and I'm thinking of anything. So I'm like, oh, you are very much a misanthrope.
I don't think he hates people. I think he
might hate people.
Well, yeah, Charlie Kaufman is pre art school Hitler. I think we can.
I'm a very dyed in the wool nihilist, and so for me, I feel like that gives me a freedom to. Now, other people just call me a pessimist, but that gives me the freedom to really genuinely look at things from a almost a separated alien anthropological level and admit that things are fucked up. And fucked up isn't even something you can really say. It has to just basically be not in line with how I would like things to be. And so I find tremendous amounts of beauty in the truth of the things that I don't like about the world and that I don't like about people. And so for a guy like him, I could imagine him being like, no, this isn't necessarily me making a critique on how terrible people are. This is me wanting to explore the beauty of exactly how people are. and how things really
Yeah,
are.
that's fair.
And we keep watching everything in white, in movies to be like, and then they fell in love and they lived happily ever after. And it's just like, from his experience, it doesn't seem to, that's not what he's been doing. And that's not what he's focusing on in his art, Someone, the guys from Small Beans were just talking about Stand By Me like 2 months ago or a month ago. And they were saying how Stephen King appears to have this, he loves and has there's a magic about his childhood. He loves childhood. He likes to do these kinds of stories talking about, these children, but they always have extreme trauma involved. And so it seems like he remembers the good old days, but also it would appear, if you were to believe something from his art, that something had happened to him as well, and that things were difficult in his childhood. So he always has both of those halves. There's
Maybe
almost
he's just
always
bitter
child
and
molesters.
doesn't want to see a happy child again because he can't re-experience
No more
it.
happy children.
He's just projecting his current trauma of aging into his work and instilling it into children, going, what if children were as traumatized as I am about the state of the world? There's a lot of ways to think about it.
There is. Well, Michael, one of the guys talking about it, he said that his take on it was that he was like, he always writes, so like at the end of Stand By Me is, I never in my life again had friends like I had back then, but I mean, who does? And he's like, I did. He's like, I had kind of whatever friends when I was in school. And now, because he worked for Cracked for a long time and they made all those videos together before they all got fired. And he's like, so now it's like, yeah, he's like, the friends I have now are way better than those guys. Like, we do the coolest stuff these days. And back then it was just kind of fucking around waiting to get older.
Yeah.
Which it was like that for me. I don't really have any friends from when I was like, 11 or 12. A lot of my friends were like friends of proximity. These kids were my neighbors, so that's who I hung out with.
Yeah, same. I think everyone's current pool of friends is probably their most curated, and unless you're new in town or something.
Well, I was gonna say, barring some stuff like that, those things do happen. I've met people who, like you said, they move here, especially because I live in a military town. So I'll catch a lot of people who will get married young, move here because of the military, get divorced. Now they're stuck in this town, and so you kind of have that situation, or you only have friends from work. And so that's the same problem of like the friends of proximity. You don't go to the discotheque to go meet people.
The
discotheque. Man. So Kung Fu Hustle, man. What'd you think?
It was fun.
It is.
It's a fun movie.
Is it the same director as Shaolin Soccer?
Yes.
Yeah, Stephen Chow.
Yes, okay.
And lead actor.
Okay.
Right. That's got to be
It's been quite a while since I've seen either, but I have seen both.
Well, it's interesting. I think part of what's fun for me is that it's interesting to have a culture that you're not intimate, like extremely intimate with, and you didn't live it firsthand, and then seeing someone parodying their own culture. So it's like watching the airplane for China. And so it's really interesting to get like that kind of insight into it and be seeing him like making fun of their old works. It's like there's like a lot of references to like the Monkey King and things like that. And it's kind of like every Chinese person would have got this joke. And I think that it's cool. It's kind of neat to see that,
Yeah, very much.
It makes me want to see like more. Like I've been, experimenting more with like Bollywood movies too. And it's like, I feel like those are almost, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong places because I'm also not super interested in trying to watch like just a romantic drama or something in Bollywood.
Yeah.
But there's so many of them that are literal period pieces. So it's been like an interesting outlet for me to get to kind of, I'll look up like, what the hell is this story? It's like, oh, okay, this is like an ancient tale of heroes from, blah, blah, blah. And so it's kind of fun to watch their dissecting of their own cultures as well, especially as just, the world gets more affluent every year. So a lot of these people are getting the ability to tell these stories, for the first times, getting these budgets. There's Bollywood movies that look incredible these days.
Oh yeah, there's some big time Bollywood stuff now. And it's cracked its way into China too. So like Bollywood stuff is doing big money without ever having to worry about North America.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Because if you ever look at like the top movies in China at a given time, it's like, well, when movies existed.
Yeah.
It's like a couple American blockbusters and then like 3, 4, and 5 are Bollywood movies.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's cool. I know it's kind of sad that like the Chinese movie industry is so anemic, They I forgot who it was some politician they had, and he was talking about how like China basically is pandas and is kung fu, but we could never have made Kung Fu Panda, and that's like a mark of disgrace. It's a great point.
We had all the tools.
Well, it's like there's a very interesting thing about how there's certain like there's no perfect one government for everything. So there's some things,
except the one world government, which is coming soon, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'll be interested in what it. I mean, I guess it would be a monarchy, but it's like, yeah, it's just hard because there's some things that some government systems are great for, and but are bad at other things. There's things that America, we're terrible at getting things done timely. England, not great at getting things in. Basically anywhere that has a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of red tape and has people moving in and out, it makes it difficult to well, and I don't even want to say timely. A better example is how, like, in China, because you do have these guys who are like appointed for such a long time, they can oversee like a 20-year project themselves. So there's so much value to the guy being able to like,
where
stay
you never
on
get
top
that
of it.
somewhere with 4-year terms.
Absolutely not.
And
no, it's a
8-year
nightmare.
maximums.
It's a nightmare for us. Yeah, 100%. And it's not even just our presidency. And I'm on that. Like, I wish we only had one 6-year term for the president, and I wish that a lot of our lifetime appointees weren't. Justices is a great example.
Yeah, senators and justices.
100%. I think those are our worst problem.
Yeah, I think everyone probably agrees on that one. Although, we have like we have the ability to have prime ministers that are sitting for 20 years or something. That's basically like what
just keep getting reelected.
Yeah, because we don't have like rules over how many times you can get reelected. And I think and I think the term limit's 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong.
Okay.
Because we had Harper had to be 10 years.
A while, yeah. So yeah. But like then you get this other side of it, right? Where it's like, you have these one-party states which are really good at getting things done.
Right.
But they don't lack in efficiency, but there are some other problems.
Yeah, there are some other, serious. It's like they're good at getting things done, but bad at, if you will, what's the way of putting it? I guess deciding what gets done, right? Like it's not that they're bad at deciding it. They can decide pretty quickly, but a lot of people are gonna be like, we shouldn't be doing that. So I don't know. It's a weird trade-off to have, like, between on one end we have like the ability to argue about and be like, we should have this, no, we should have this, and then we can go like, which one do we want more? Let's have a vote. Let's like spend billions of dollars like electing people and as a country warring over this issue and let it define our culture, which it does to some extent. Like our culture is defined by the factions that fall on one side or the other of any particular issue. Or you could just have someone unilaterally go, we're doing that.
Yeah.
And then just do it. So it's weird. It's I think we would all prefer to live in the world where, that we currently do, where we try to, suss out the differences, although it's getting
I think we can all agree that the way to go is fascist ethnocracy.
It's fascism, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If you
fascist
live
democracy. It's like anarcho-capitalism.
Well, that's America. We're a fascist democracy, basically.
I said fascist ethnocracy.
Oh, even better. Well, here's the thing. Here's my thing with
Israel, not U.S.
Monarchies.
That's actually a good point. That works really well, by the way. They're doing smashingly great.
Killing it.
They're almost done killing it all.
It's kind of like what do you call it? It's almost better to live. Well, it's hard because people have such disparate ideas. But like you could see, I think you could imagine the value of living under an extremely benevolent dictatorship or monarchy. If you had a king who could just get things done, but he was really smart and really kind, it would be awesome. But then as soon as his
that's like a pretty sweet deal as far as government goes. Yeah,
I think it can be just because of the efficiency part, But the representation thing is very important, and I think that. That's what so much. The American, Revolutionary War was in good part over that kind of situation where it's like we want people making decisions for us who represent our views, and that's one of the issues I have with like a Nancy Pelosi, some of the Biden and all these people who are octogenarians who have been in important parts of our political system for the greater part of 40-50 years. I think that they can lose touch with the zeitgeist now. And so they still have mentalities based on things from 20-30 years ago. And we kind of need to get like fresh faces in here who see things that are closer to where the actual people are.
I think all politicians should be young people. I honestly just think, because who are you making laws for at the end of the day?
That's
who
what
is
I'm
a
saying.
90-year-old person legislating for?
Yeah, for other
the
old
next
people.
5 years? It's like, no, get like 30 and 40-year-olds making
someone who the future matters to.
It's their future at the end of the day. I don't know.
At minimum, Gen X should be taking over for the boomers at this point for us. Like at this point, like Tulsi Gabbard age people, it's like they're old enough to kind of have the like, hey, I'm going to play a mom, I'm going to play a dad, I'm like 40, 50, but I'm 40, 50, I'm not 80.
Yeah, she's still, they still like
my brain still works.
And she grew up listening to Nirvana, so she gets stuff. It's like she's not that I don't play the hey, fellow children politics. Like, I'm not saying that part, but I'm just mean there's guys like who are anti-weed, who are coming from a post-World War II mentality on weed relations.
Yeah, like listening to doo-wop and shit.
Yes, exactly. Right. Where Metallica and Nirvana were like, oh, those are like those grungy, scary, drug endorsing, it's like,
we don't want the people who are listening to doo-wop. We want the people who are listening to Billy Joel's doo-wop album.
Right.
Yeah, that's I mean, and then eventually, like, Britney Spears or whatever. Like, we'll make our way up. We can measure our politicians by the music they grew up listening to. That should
be the main thing we use to measure. That should be exactly
like when Kamala Harris lied about listening to Tupac.
Oh man,
did she actually do that?
Yeah, she did. She said she said she used to smoke weed and listen to Tupac, and the year she named was a year before he started making music. That's why we know it was a lie. Like, there's no way around that.
I was a big Tupac fan in 1976.
She was a Biggie fan the whole time.
That's what it was.
It's true. Well, she was East Coast.
It's frustrating. Like, I posted on Facebook the other day. It was like the working class. Hey, can we get some help? The Republicans, no. The Democrats, no. Black Lives Matter, heart face, gay flag. It's like, I feel like a lot of times they're trying to. No, I'm not going to help you on any real policy issue, but hey,
try to make you feel better with some platitudes.
Exactly, platitudes. Yeah. And I hate the empty platitudes. And it's frustrating because I don't think the answer is going to come from the Republicans. So it has to come from the Democrats, and the Democrats are proving over and over again that they're no better than the Republicans, and so it feels very doomed. It's like you would need
the Democrats are the Republicans, but cowards.
Yeah. Well, and the Republicans, they're better. They've put more character points in their character sheet on, charisma.
Correct. Yeah.
I think the main reason a lot of young people who are like low information voters don't like Trump is because he's boorish more than they could name policies that they don't like. And so it's frustrating because if that's why you don't like Trump, then you're a very easy candidate to like someone else, because they said they listened to Tupac. Or Kamala Harris was wearing like Timberlands, and that made news. That's the thing too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I want to kill myself every time. Like, news, man. Like, where important things are supposed to happen, and we're talking about whose shoes. Like, it's just, oh man, drives me insane. So if I get too in the rabbit hole, eventually I just have to be like, okay, look, I'm taking a break.
hey, here's a thing that won't piss you off. Are you excited for a Supreme Court where Brett Kavanaugh is considered a centrist?
I know,
yeah, that'll be fun.
It's coming, dude. I don't know. I couldn't imagine.
Get your abortions now. Just saying.
I could. It's funny. Everyone was saying that right when Trump got elected too. That was like a big thing. It's very it's very interesting how he will probably, just because of that alone, if he does get this third one, he already almost is because of the two he got. If he does get this third one, which I just couldn't imagine the Democrats letting him. That's somewhere that they're actually in disagreement. See, that's one of the problems I have, right? Nancy Pelosi's going on. I'm sorry, I'm getting so into these politics, but it's like Nancy Pelosi going on and on and on about impeachment, and he's the worst president, and blah, 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 and I hate him so much, and I'm tearing up his speech, and I'm giving him golf claps, while I'm signing over like $80 million for defense spending to a guy who I'm also telling everyone is like a Russian splinter cell agent. So if that's the case, then you're signing off on giving Putin 80 million. Like, they're full of crap. Like, they have the reason that they never fight Trump on substance is because they have the same policies. They're both pro-war, pro-Wall Street. And so they both are doing all of the things that we need to do to bail out Wall Street and to keep the never-ending wars going. And so the only place they ever get to fight him is that he doesn't eat salad with the right fork. So it's like, oh, he called a woman a horse face, and he's the worst president ever. It's like, no, you need to be freaking out about the military spending. You need to be freaking out about the bailouts. Why are you not freaking out about those things? And they won't, because that too pays their bills. When Bernie Sanders was going to get interviewed on ABC, they had their opener, and he was like, hey, this was brought to you by Bank of America. And he was like, is it really brought to us by Bank of America? Bank of America is sponsoring the interview you're going to do with the guy who's trying to take down the banks. Like, it's so it's so frustrating, because I just know that, and the young voters, they're not only low information, they literally just don't show up. So I think the Bernie campaign is a great example of how it is. There's this huge voting block that if you could get them to go vote, then you would win all the time. But it seems, I don't know what it would take. I don't know, because
I'm really not sure. I guess I assume Obama probably got like the record of like actual young voter turnout,
probably,
because he was like, he's pretty hip, and like young people are excited to vote for a not old white guy. So I could see that, but otherwise
Bernie had hip policies.
Tough.
And
he
it's
talked
hard to
about
get young
healthcare.
people. It's
He
hard to
talked
get
about
young people to
healthcare.
vote for policy.
It's honestly,
Yeah.
it's like not hard. You just talk about healthcare and housing and student loan forgiveness, and you get
Trump
I don't think
could,
it's that. I don't think. Yeah, Trump could. Trump could run to the left and win all.
Literally,
the
the Democrats are going so right that it would be so easy. One issue, if he were to say legalize marijuana federally,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
landslide. If he said Medicare for all, landslide. If he said UBI, landslide.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
not even
it's so
close.
crazy that the Democrats are trying to like win
Outright.
the fight on the right.
On the right,
Like,
they make
you
arguments against
fucking
Trump
idiots.
to the
Go
right of him
left.
sometimes.
It's pretty bad.
You're the left party.
that's the
doing
problem.
this
This is why
stuff.
no
They
one votes for
actually
them, though.
hate the left. That's the problem.
That's the problem. They're
they
not
keep-
actually
they
left.
keep
They're just slightly
pretending-
more left of the right.
There
yeah.
are left factions in them. There are progressive
Well, no,
candidates.
there are,
down
and that's
ballot.
what
For
I'm
sure.
saying, right?
Like down
They
ballot.
hate
And this
those
is
guys.
why like I think it's still important. Like if you want any sort of change, you still have to vote Democrat. I think you. I
Yes.
think like
Well,
that's the
so
only
here,
option.
No, you
okay,
do.
but that's,
You
so
do.
that's what I'm saying. Though.
But
Here's
it's
what's hard
like,
about
but
that.
just because there are down ballot progressive candidates who want these things to happen, and you basically have to wait for all these old people to die so that fresh. That's literally you have to just wait
know
for them
what
to
you mean.
die, and by the time they die, you want to make sure that the house is still standing. I
Right.
think like that's at this point that's the only real thing. Like I'm not American, but if I was like that's
I know
the
what you
only.
mean.
There's no game plan. You can't get these people out.
Well, it's a two-part thing, and you have to do a lot on faith because you have to wait for the old people to die, and you have to wait for the young people to not turn into the same old people.
Exactly, because that's what happens.
But like that is a variable you can't. I mean, you can't really control for
control,
as much.
right.
You can't. You
The
just have to
death
hope
thing
they
you
stay
have-
progressive.
But that's like what else? It's that or just
Well,
kill
here's
yourself.
something I'm
I was gonna say,
kinda
it's the
like-
only
yeah,
option,
that's
so
kinda
you-
where I'm
yeah,
at.
of
there's
course.
no
I'm
other options.
at
right?
kill
You
yourself
kind of
right
have
now. No, I
to
agree.
Get there.
The hard one I'm having right now is that part of me, this is maybe a little bit utopian thinking, but part of me would
From the
like,
nihilist, here we.
yeah, I know. Yeah, here you go. What I'm kind of hoping for is that if they do lose, they did every neocon thing they possibly could during the primaries, and they screwed the progressive as hard as they possibly could during the primaries, saying you guys can't win. So if they
for the second straight election
for the
cycle,
second straight,
by
well,
the
the
way.
first time they like literally like illegal cheated, like some people should
they
be in jail.
literally cheated.
This time it was just them being total douchebags and basically just power consolidating and being like, okay, Warren, you stay in just long enough to water down Bernie's votes, and then you three guys step down because we'll give you positions later. And it was this horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
The hope is, the utopian hope would be that if they lose again, then there's nothing for them to hide behind with this neocon crap. And they can't keep saying that this will work because it obviously doesn't. And they would have to finally concede that, okay, let's give the progressives a chance.
I
do think something
yeah.
positive can come from the Democrats taking a bunch of L's because nothing else will teach them.
I completely
basically.
disagree. Because the Democrats have been
You think
taking
they're-
L's. They've been taking L's.
I guess that's
for
true.
so long. It's because I think
And they-
that we're
they are
framing it
bad at
as-
learning, I'll give
we're
you that.
No, it's not that. It's that they don't care about losing. That's
guess.
they don't really want to win.
Well, the other
they
problem is I
really,
think that-
really don't want. Like,
But if you think of it this way, a loss
I
to
think this
Trump is a
really-
smaller loss than a loss to Bernie. Less will change for them with Trump than would
if
with Bernie.
they
So that's why
learn-
they hate the progressives so
like,
much.
I've heard this a lot, and this idea that like, this kind of it's like accelerationism to some extent because it's the idea
Yeah,
that
yeah, I agree.
You know,
That's what it is.
if they lose enough, then that'll just bring about the change faster. Bullshit. Because
I agree with you. That's why I said
because
utopian.
because they're still making money.
Well, no,
Because
that's
they're
why I'm
still
agreeing with you,
getting
though. is
paid
that-
off.
That's what I'm saying.
You
If
know,
they
they're
lose to
having-
Trump, that's better than them
they're
losing
watching.
to
You're
Bernie.
going to the ball game with George W. Bush.
And
100%,
as we know,
yeah.
Gael, we've got to have money.
money.
No, they
it's
have,
like-
but that's the problem too. They have
They
all the
don't
money.
care
The
about
progressives
losing
don't
or
have
winning.
the money.
They're not going to learn anything. I'm so like, and
No,
that's
I
why
agree
I
with you.
hate
I
what
agree
happened
with
in
you.
2016 so much because like that was the mentality going out of 2016. It was like, okay, now Hillary lost. Like, she's gonna learn. Everyone's gonna learn. They're gonna change what they do, and they didn't.
And
They
they
didn't
didn't.
even change it a little bit. They didn't even like
Nothing. No, they
not,
doubled down.
not a single thing.
They
Not
doubled
a
Yeah,
single
down.
if
policy
nothing, they
position.
went slightly further
They
right.
went further.
If anything, they went, and it's like that
I
should
agree.
tell everybody like that what's really going on. And like if it happens again, they're not gonna. It's not gonna be like, oh shit, oh we just needed a second time and now we really have it. It's like
Well, I
no,
think-
it's just they're gonna keep
I
doing
think
it
a
until
huge
she
prob-
dies. Until Nancy Pelosi like dies and
But
retires,
again,
and
who's
everyone else
replacing her,
dies,
you know?
and then when she does, she's gonna die ignorant about these things. In the same way that
No,
Hillary's
no. These people are not ignorant. They know exactly what's going
no,
on.
I
She's
mean
gonna die
ignorant in the
malicious.
sense that ignorant of like ignorant implies that they have to have a stake in the game.
Shouldn't know.
Like
Yeah.
Hillary, I don't get to look at Hillary and go like, haha, you learned your lesson. You know, it's like I don't get to have that because she doesn't believe that. She has justified to herself,
and
her
she has
own
different
loss.
goals than we do. We actually want to see some good change for the working class, and they don't care. They just want to line their pockets.
They don't care. Yeah,
they want to pay off their donors.
They say they do. They've lied. I feel like they lie to themselves a lot, and they give themselves all these justifications. Like what happened? Like that book she came out with, where it's like. It's everyone's fault, and then at the end, it's like it's also kind of my fault a bit.
It's just propaganda.
And it's like that was the book. In case you that's the cliff notes if you guys want to.
No, I know. That. Yeah,
and,
blaming
and
Donna Brazil.
It's awful. It's just it's so bad. Like
it's so bad, dude. It's messed up. It's really messed up.
Yeah, I think nothing for a very, very long time can happen. Yeah, like systemically in the party. I think the only hope is for a big progressive to absolutely catch fire on their own and become unstoppable. Like if AOC becomes unstoppable.
There are factions, like that's the thing. There's a lot. There's now like it used to be like 2 or 3. Now there's like 10 or 12 of like like progressive far left true blue candidates.
If we could get someone who was someone kind of like a Kyle Kalinske or something like that, if we could get somebody who could start a big third party movement who could pull from both sides, not necessarily from Republican, but from like moderate sides and kind of undecided, and then from the left, actual left, because that's the thing. I think that if the left,
I feel like that's what Cenk Uygur tried to do.
But the problem is Cenk Uygur is kind of like an AOC, where he's so far left, he alienates a lot of moderates. And so I think that if you could actually cleave from the Democrats and split that into two. Now, the problem that you could have, though, is kind of like when the Bold Moose Party happened. If you were to split the Democratic Party kind of in half between neocons and progressives, then
wasn't the Bold Moose Party just to fuck over Taft, though?
Yes. But what would end up happening, though, I think, is that you would end up with then the Republicans would be way too powerful because they would still stay consolidated. So you'd have to basically split them both, and that's the problem.
That's the problem that the conservatives in this country have. Because, that's the problem that our left-leaning people have is that we have one conservative party and like 2 or 3 left parties.
Yeah.
Although right now we have a minority left-wing party, and constitutional parliament works differently, or what we have works differently, and it's actually kind of nice because we get more representation. But that's besides the point, because we actually have more.
And also, at the end of the day, the Queen is in charge. So
yeah, at the end, she makes all the decisions.
Does she?
Well, she actually has to sign off on every single bill, which she doesn't physically do. She gets someone else to do it.
That's what I was gonna say. Is she actually like reading? Sorry, I gotta see what the colonies are doing today. What do you guys?
It's all very
tax, huh?
I think that you're right in the sense that the 2-party system is absolutely garbage.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
And you need more representation.
We need ranked voting.
I think Kyle's like policies are pretty left though. Like if he's gonna run on like Medicare for all and UBI and student loan forgiveness and healthcare and shit.
He and Yang though know how to sell to people not as left. Where I think that Uygur,
you think?
Yeah. Well, for me, because I'm not that left. I'm substantially more moderate than he is, but he knows how to talk like sense and not make everything identity politics. He also hates identity politics as much as I do. And a lot of guys like Cenk Uygur and those guys are all into that stuff. I mean, if you go watch like their election coverage in 2016, they spent half of their time just like berating the basket of deplorables and talking about how people are trash if you're voting for, this way and the other way. And it's like, that is not buying those people over, and it actually solidified a lot of people to vote for Trump, where it was like, you're going to call me a what? Okay, fine. Keep playing. Let's see what happens. So I think some of those guys at least know how to talk to people. And they also, like I said, talking sense, even from Joe Biden. When Joe Biden had salt and pepper hair, he brought up a great case for healthcare
40 years ago.
40 years ago. He was saying he did a speech where he was saying how if I started the same company in America and in Canada, the Canadian company would be right away worth like 14% more in value because the government is subsidizing the healthcare rather than the company having to. So then when we go and compete in foreign markets, the Canadian company could cut 10% and still be up 4% over the American company. For a guy like me, that's cents and dollars. Like that makes sense to me. That works. That's not just but the people, because there's just too many people who are like,
you can actually attach a number to it and show how it makes sense.
And this isn't some bleeding heart utopian, like, a Marx kind of theology. This is nuts and bolts. This makes sense. Let's do the thing that makes the most sense. And that's where I stand, because I used to be very, very conservative. So I've pushed way left over my lifetime. And so I've turned into this thing where it's like, I want to hear everything brought to me and then explain to me why it does or doesn't make sense. I don't care if this is a left-wing mentality or a right-wing mentality. Just show me what makes sense. So
yeah, that's fine. It's America's fucked either way. I think.
I think it absolutely is. Yeah. Well, someone brought up a great point.
I like this. I think Kyle did a thing where he talked about a scenario where he showed this Vice piece where they were doing a scenario on Supreme Court nomination, and
I just saw that. Okay, I saw that today.
Yeah. If Trump nominates somebody and they get put into the Supreme Court, so it's like 6-3 or whatever. Then one of the things, like especially if they do it, pre-election, then they're going to take an election hit because Republicans in blue states get fucked a bit. And if they do it after the election but before the new president's sworn, so in the lame duck session, then they forfeit everything after that. So if Democrats had balls, which then they would pack the court and go like, all right, the Supreme Court's now 13 people. And
that was interesting. Yeah, make it 11
Democrats,
and we get to appoint them.
That's a tool in the playbook that they could do. And I think that's actually a good play for the Republicans if they did that in lame duck session, because it hinges on Democrats having the guts to do it, which they definitely won't.
Well, the reason I don't think
which they absolutely don't.
The reason I don't think they're going to want to wait is because I don't think that they're confident that Trump's going to win. Not that they're unconfident, but I think that's not a slam dunk. If they thought it was a slam dunk, I think that they would wait. But this will be one more thing to try to invigorate the base.
I guess when's the election? Like a month from now?
It's not long.
November
a month and
4th?
A couple of weeks.
Maybe.
Whatever the Tuesday is. It's like 6 weeks.
So we'll do like an election episode or something.
Dude,
I
would be told. You guys want to do a live one? Like election coverage?
A live election coverage? Maybe. It depends on what's happening on the day, but maybe.
Okay,
I probably won't have work. I probably won't be working. So
no, we could totally do that. It's so funny.
So we might do something.
Well, and the stuff won't be happening till later in the evening anyway. So
I have had a pizza writing on this election for like over a year now.
Oh, really? It's hard for me because the factors have changed so drastically. There were points during the primaries where I was like, Trump is going to annihilate these guys, and then there's been points where I'm like, oh, never mind, it's completely swapped. I certainly back like 6 months ago didn't foresee coronavirus.
Well, yeah, like pre-COVID, Trump slam dunk.
I thought he was going to annihilate these guys.
Absolute slam dunk.
Especially the primaries were
bigger than
2016. But also, people's memories are so fucking short. It's like now we have Kamala running next to a guy who, during the primary, she was eviscerating him because he's easy to eviscerate. And so it's so funny that now it's like she literally was on like Jimmy Fallon. She was like, "Oh, it's a debate. It's a debate." It's like, what are you saying then? Then like it's cool to lie. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, pretty much. But people just have such short memories, and not to mention, I'm assuming they're watching all of this stuff. Like. They're not, so I don't know.
Who like the politicians?
Going up? No. I mean like dude at Walmart, who is gonna vote. It's like I'm assuming everyone is as educated on this stuff as I am, and they're just not.
Well, yeah, going off of short memories, I'm pretty sure they're gonna roll out like a vaccine on like November 2nd.
And that's political. That's all political. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether or not
the guy who saved it. Yeah. Well, I won't be in line for that.
I think it honestly matters what you do on November 2nd will determine the election.
You're 100%. Well,
because that's
I'll
the
at least put it this
way.
Have. This is not too late. Like big plays can happen and people will kind of remember. Well, that was Kyle was describing Trump the same way. He like listens to whoever the last guy in the room was, So that's kind of what happens for I think a lot of the low information voters. That's why people too they'll talk about how like, oh yeah, Obama, one of the best presidents we ever had. And it's like what they really are saying is CNN didn't constantly talk shit all the time, so I don't remember hearing that stuff. And so I guess he must have been great because they didn't have any complaints. And I don't listen to Fox.
And he was well spoken and seemed nice.
Well, right, of course, yeah, for sure, and that whoever the next guy
in the way
is,
that Trudeau is well spoken and seems nice, right? You can't out charisma our prime minister, right? You can't beat like Aaron O'Toole, who recently got elected. It's kind of Canadian news here, but Aaron O'Toole
like
Conservative leadership, which I followed live, which was a big mistake for anyone else who followed it because it literally took like 8 hours because their machines were literally eating the ballots and shredding them up. I'm not even kidding. But yeah, so they elected this, talks the truth, this kind of more or less not super Trumpian, but kind of like a man of the people type guy, for their,
those stuffy suits over there.
Yeah, and he beat the stuffy suit guy. He beat like Peter MacKay, who was going to be the stuffy suit. Yeah. So there's this, and that's the idea is that like the stuffy suit guy was going to be like Andrew Scheer 2.0, who was our previous conservative leadership candidate and ex challenger to the throne of Canada. Yeah. But he was trying.
He was going against the Queen.
He was, as you do.
Yeah, Andrew Scheer was running for new queen.
Yes, thank God.
That would be. She's still alive. Can we just every year I have to say this? Probably.
Can we take a minute to appreciate that Queen Elizabeth II is alive?
Dude, I saw a fantastic.
She's like 10 years older than Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, I saw a great Reddit post of her shaking hands with like the last 10 presidents. It was fucking awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
She presided over.
And her mother lived forever too. Her mother lived to over 100.
Yeah.
Wow. So she's got she somehow, despite being so inbred, they like figured out the right genes to inbreed, and like they cracked the code.
Just beans and toast.
She
Might be
presided
beans and
over
toast.
the joining of the United Kingdom with the European Union and its subsequent
you're
exit
right.
from it.
Oh my god.
She was there
you're
for the
right.
whole thing.
The whole EU was her.
She
That's nuts.
fought in World War One and Two. Not a lot of people know that.
Yeah, so she's done a lot.
No,
But yeah,
it is. No,
fucking insane.
that really is something crazy. It's very maybe same Reddit post. Someone brought up a great fucking point. No, I know what it was. It was somewhere else. Someone was like, ask Europe, and they said like, hey, what's your relation? How do you feel about your guys' relationship with America? Are they an ally? Are they a rival? Is it neither? And so people had a lot of interesting points of like their specific histories with America and how it's changed. One of the guys brought up a great point. He was like, America. Oh, what did he say? He's like, they need to be careful because they are going to become a country that is no longer a superpower but behaves like they still are, and then they'll just be England. And I was like, oh, it's so interesting for like them to basically be seeing us turn into what they've turned into. You know, it's like that's a very interesting. Still
Like
act
an aging empire that doesn't have it anymore.
Well, Rome went away. You know, England stayed and just got small, and that's very interesting. You know, it's like
I think England's learned their lesson over the past couple of decades. I think like they spent the last couple of decades, probably longer now, just trying to undo a lot of the colonial stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just with the exception of the Falklands, but like most of it's been like, yeah, we'll just pull out of everything, and you can be your own countries now, and sorry for all that. Please forget that we still literally have all your paraphernalia and museums that we stole from you.
that's fucked.
Please don't ask for them back.
Yeah.
You know, it's
sorry about the murder and stealing.
yeah, and we still have your shit.
Huge amounts of Africa is that kind of thing where it's like,
Yeah, and French colonies too.
yeah.
But like they're fine now. I think for the most, they're harmless. You know, it's that kind of thing. America's
Well, I don't
never
mean that they're
gonna,
harmful. I just
America's
mean, like,
never
the
gonna. My
attitude.
point is, America's never gonna be what England. It would be a great if they could be what the United Kingdom currently is today, to some extent, with the exception of the Brexit stuff. Okay, maybe like 5 years ago.
But let's also keep in mind how long Britain was around. You know, so it's like maybe when America is that old, you know, then we can get into that.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it's a young, temper-ridden child is America, I think, in the world, and they're kicking and screaming, and
Isn't
they're gonna
Canada right around the same time?
Yeah,
Isn't it funny? No one ever mentions that.
We're a little younger.
We became a country about 100 years later than the U.S. But
it's so funny. Everyone always
the
talks
same
about how what a
things were
young
going
country
on.
America is. I'm like, Canada's pretty. No one ever talks about Canada being young. They're pretty young.
We just because we're kind of still because until like 1972, we were
just
still
more
an extension
England.
of the British colony.
that makes
Literally,
sense.
we were England.
That
we
makes
were
sense,
literally still England.
Yeah, good point.
So we
Well,
have this kind of we've inherited the age.
Do you guys
to
know what
some
Cinco de
extent.
Mayo is all about?
The 5th of May.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's all I know. It
Is
translates
it
to the 5th of May.
Mexican independence?
So it's actually not, which is very interesting because most people think
not.
it is. I guess that's a different day.
Yeah.
I don't know what day that is. So Cinco de Mayo apparently is a celebration when Mexico used to
Mexican
owe-
independence is that's Taco Tuesday. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there you go. Every Tuesday is Independence Day. Mexico apparently owed a whole bunch of money to France, and France, I don't know if they have officially declared war, but they basically sent a bunch of dudes to go fuck them up, and Mexico won the battle, and so it then went down as remembrance. It's always, the implication's always so interesting to me because it makes me wonder, like, man, what would have happened if France actually did go over there and just basically do like a hard colonization, just smoke them up and take them over?
It would be like
Interesting.
Canada 2.0
French
or something.
Mexico.
That'd be fascinating. That would be so interesting. Go down like basically a French colony south of us. Not to talk crap about,
I mean, a lot of people would be,
Mexico south
a lot
us,
of you guys would be speaking French and shit right
Wouldn't
now.
that be fascinating? That'd be just,
It would be interesting.
Yeah,
so
it'd be very
interesting.
different.
There's like really
Very
good
different.
espresso down south of the border. It's like,
Would you need to build a wall then?
okay, so here's the thing. The idea is not that the wall, for
Mexican
instance-
would be French. Let's just appreciate that.
That's
for
what I'm
now.
saying.
Yeah.
Think about all the implications. But also Mexican would be French after being Mexico. So it wasn't like it was French
Yeah.
people who met Aztecs or Incans.
Yeah.
It would be French
Yeah,
people
it was
who
still
met already
Spanish people who
established
met
Mexican.
Aztecs,
Right, that'd
but
be-
then
it'd be
France
two
got
layers.
that shit.
And
It's an
then
interesting alternate history.
and then would it be like,
episode.
I know I'm telling you, there should be like a book about this, like, because then it would kind of be like Canada, where you guys still have this kind, they call America the melting pot, but they call you guys like the mosaic. 'cause there's-
Mosaic, yeah.
So I think you would have that. There would be kind of like, these are like the Mexican parts of town, and these are kind of the French parts of
Yeah.
town, and there's more white guys who live here, and there's more brown guys who live here. Like, I think, versus them completely melding,
Yeah,
especially because it
you
hasn't
get
been that
something
long.
like that.
Oh, fascinating, man. I was just like, dude, no one talks about the
that's
implications of if that one battle had gone differently, how, drastically different things could have been. And all of history is like that. If Alexander the Great got smoked up right away, Greece doesn't take over huge portions of the world. If Kublai Khan had gotten AIDS, like it doesn't, they don't take over the whole world. It's like what?
And Lord knows he tried.
He tried his best. He tried, because it's like 5% of all humans have like DNA directly connected to Kublai Khan or Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan, yeah.
So all of those, it's very interesting. Hitler goes to art school, or Hitler doesn't lose battles. There's drastically different things that could happen. So it's very
Dum Dum doesn't go to Russia in the winter.
Stalin dies from plenty of things he should have died from before. America doesn't side with Stalin because Stalin's a douchebag. Like there's so many things could have gone so differently. It's very interesting. But that's one that just doesn't come up. And I'm like, man, that's fascinating. It could have been like a little France down there. It's so weird, I mean, honestly, if we really want to think about it, you could probably draw some kind of extrapolation with huge portions of Africa. Just look at what those places are like, and then see if maybe it would have been something like that, because they didn't do a whole lot of infrastructure building in the places in Africa that they had.
Like control of. What if like Mexico turned into South Africa?
It was just even worse.
yeah.
It's like weird. All of Mexico is Tijuana, because the South Africa's rough, man.
Yeah.
Although they keep pumping out A-list actors, though. That's interesting.
True.
That's funny. They have one acting school and just nothing else. Like that's
but they're killing it.
Yeah. The school is so good.
It's like when you open I don't know if you're like doing like a Sims game or like Civilization 5, and like your country's just garbage, but you have just like one really unusual thing. It's like
Though it is
that'd
fascinating.
be kind of funny. It's like really out of sync with the rest. It's like that's not. Why is there a shard like an England style like giant beautiful building in the middle of this slum? Like I just put it there because I thought it would look cool.
Well, Charlize Theron, that's why she paid for it. Or who's that guy from District 9?
Neil Blomkamp.
No, the actor.
Oh, what's his name?
He's super South African.
Fuck.
I really liked him in some things, and then I just didn't see him anymore.
I don't remember his face.
Oh, his face.
I mean, I really liked him in District 9.
Yeah, he was great in District 9. He was also in Elysium as the bad guy, and it was cool because he just played such an opposite type. He played like an assassin,
Charlton Copley.
Yes, that's
never.
I would never have remembered that name. Yeah.
Copley. Yeah, his name was Vicus. Vicus.
Yeah, Vicus.
God, District 9 was so fun.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, Blomkamp. What else did he make right after that?
He did Elysium. He did Chappie.
Oh,
and
he did.
Don't know
ouch.
what else.
Literally, it goes like...
It was sort of a downward trend.
It was. It was like really good, okay, and not good at all. That's tough. Ouch. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
I saw District 9 on a plane with no information about it, no expectations, and I got so engrossed in it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I really like it. I think it's
it was fun. It was its own thing.
It's one of the best movies I think I've ever seen for like seamless integration of CGI in real life. I was shocked at how good the CGI like blended in.
Very well done. And like for a guy's first feature, very impressive.
Yeah. And I also liked it was not the most unique take on like human alien relations ever, but it was interesting. It's like, okay, I could see that.
It was a cool take for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like it's obviously an allegory for like displaced peoples. Yeah.
Obviously, especially coming from South Africa.
100%. So I mean, like we've seen, so he had real life stuff to pull from, which helped a lot, kind of like how, well, maybe not quite as good. Like Beast of No Nation feels so real because it's like, that's stuff that happens all the time. That was like a real thing. Really, really great performances by Idris Elba. It was actually really funny seeing that same kid. Did you guys ever see that?
No.
I didn't see Beast of No Nation.
Ooh, watch that as soon as you can.
Idris Elba, you say?
Yeah, he played. It's basically about like Coney, but it's not Coney. It's just one of those million guys who are just like Coney. And
is he better or worse than Cats in it?
Oh man! All right. Well,
tough call.
I'd have to. Actually, I didn't see Cats.
What are you doing with your life? Go see Cats.
I saw. I'm having a hard time.
It's a triumph.
I don't know how. I am unbelievably cynical with movies. And I love shit talking movies, but when I started the YouTube channel talking about movies, I realized I don't have a lot to say that I feel like is worth saying when I watch a bad movie. So it's like I don't go out of my way to watch movies I know I won't like because I feel like I'll just be like, I don't know, it fucking sucked. Like, don't see it.
I like challenging myself to thinking of like how would this movie have worked?
Ooh, I
like
that.
Like for make it better. So like for Tenet, I do have an answer to that because I thought about this.
Yeah.
Just to bring it back to that film.
Sure.
One of the biggest problems I had with it was the stakes I felt were very manufactured. So like you have this early scene in the movie where he goes up to the scientist, chick, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "We're here to stop the enemy from the end of the world." And
she didn't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Nuclear holocaust," and she's like, "Worse."
Uh-huh.
And then when you have a line like that in a movie, first of all,
right.
you have to realize that everyone in the audience is gonna go like this. All right. Let's hear it.
Okay.
I'm ready. Give me what's worse than a nuclear holocaust. Sure, hit me. Right. I mean, that's the kind of thing where it's like that sets the bar really fucking high already. Right. Mm-hmm. When you go like it's worse than a nuclear holocaust, guys. Are you engrossed yet?
I do.
Don't
think
you
want to
know what's going on? So all right. So we have that set up.
Her name's
Great.
Clemence Posey.
Then what do we know? Then we get more details. Some spoilers here.
Cover yours.
It's just a small spoiler. The end of the world is going to take the form of essentially like an eccentric Russian arms dealer played by Kenneth Branagh, who decides that he's going to activate this machine essentially that will invert the entropy of the entire world, and that will cause everybody to die. And they literally pretty much say it in those terms. Like, it's going to invert everybody and it's going to result in the death of the world. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean anything to me, right?
Yeah,
because I haven't seen what I can't. So like, if you
can't
just
picture entropy being inverted.
I mean, I could kind of picture it a bit because they showed examples of it. They showed some examples of it, but they never showed like people dying because their entropy was inverted.
I don't think that's what he meant, though. I think the reason that we're going to die was the grandfather paradox he was talking about. I think that was the concern. It would unmake us, basically.
But here's the thing, right? What if you showed like a town, being hit by this weapon?
Sure.
Then I can then I'm like, aha,
like
so it's that, but on a bigger scale.
You know what? Now that you say it, I'm actually surprised we didn't see it.
Just a person having their fucking, shit fucked up. Is it just gonna be like a fucking fade? Like, people just fade away because the grandfather paradox? Because that'd be fucking lame. Because that's what I'm imagining. That's not worse than a nuclear holocaust.
Well, the reason I say it's worse is because it would end like the entire galaxy, basically, or the planet.
It's worse from a utilitarian point of view if you think
nihilist.
but it's like that's not worse than the suffering of than a heavy suffering nuclear fallout, and like my limbs are falling off, and my kids have 50 fingers and shit. Like I can imagine what a nuclear holocaust is like because I've had like years of exposure to Hollywood.
Sure, yeah.
Fucking throwing shit at me.
Yeah, totally.
If you're gonna introduce this new concept that's supposed to be like worse than that, and that's supposed to be high stakes, and the entire movie hinges on you caring about it,
and then you never show it.
Give me something. Give me a taste.
Well,
of
you're
what
right.
that's
It's almost an unshot Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, it's not even barely it. It's like a Chekhov's fucking water pistol or some shit. It's like it's like thrown in passing in some lines. And I don't care about it.
I think the reason
I wish they gave me something.
The reason those lines didn't bother me so much because she's not the only one who does it. It's the same kind of thing with the guy who puts him on the mission on the boat, and he's like, well, what are we doing? And he's like, all I have is a phrase and a gesture, Tenet.
Yeah.
And he's I didn't pass the same test you did, so I don't know anything, So I think the idea is that because I just accepted that they didn't know, and as far as they did know, they did think that it was just some kind of war situation, which that's not what was happening. The same thing with him the whole time thinking it's plutonium that they're chasing. When he's at the opera house, he thinks it's plutonium. So all of that kind of stuff, like to me, it was like, okay, these people don't actually know what they're talking about. They've just been told, hey, the world-ending magnitude problem that you have to deal with. It's a cold war, cold as ice, as the guy says. But no one actually really knows, and literally it's his job to find out what is happening.
Fine, but that doesn't help the story, right? Like that goes back to they're just waffling for the first two acts when you have a high concept that you need people to focus on, and then the plot's all over the place.
I guess the problem is
the third act, when it finally comes together, it's something that I don't care about because the stakes don't matter.
It's just global warming.
It fails on both sides. If just one of those was fixed, it would automatically be better. If either the stakes were materialized somehow, or the plot was clearer and less running around for two acts, not knowing what trying to find what the mission is.
Well, so you complained about that earlier too. I'm curious, what do you think is a good way to do a movie where the plot is the guy having to figure out what the mission is? If you were going to tell that story,
what the mission is,
because
I don't
that's
think
the thing. You're
it's a
saying
good
that's
story
what
to tell.
To do? I don't know. I think it could work because it didn't bother me that much in this. Because almost any mystery
here's
is
how
that,
you do
right?
it. If you're going to have that, then it's not that it's not the how that needs to be figured out, it's the when. By the end of Act 1, you have to have that shit all sorted out.
Okay.
You can't be, because it's a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
You can't be like an hour and 45 minutes into the movie before it's like he's gonna invert the world and that's gonna end. Like that's bullshit. Like
I get that.
Like I've been here for the length of a feature and trailers
and some
like
change.
And now you're throwing the stakes at me. It's like, just do it 30 minutes in, 45 minutes in.
No, you're totally
and like,
right.
Have a cool, like, you know
what else is weird?
You can have
is
all the
that
globetrotting cool stuff you want.
What's weird too is you get the what and
it.
the why really close to each other also.
Yeah.
When they ask her, like, oh, and they try to tell her, like, they're telling her because they know and she doesn't know, but she actually knew more than they did. Where they're like, oh, he's gonna do this. He has a dead man's trigger, and she's like, oh no, that's not what you think it is. It's actually
because
this
he has
thing.
cancer or something.
That happened very close to each other.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right. They could have told us what an hour ago, and then the big reveal there could have been the why. Or the more specifically what. The world's gonna end, but why is the world gonna end? Is in that scene there. So
I
that's
heard
fair.
from like Alex and Ralph talking about it, like how they had issues with his motivations, and I get it.
I
like,
get his motivations. That didn't bother me.
No, I get what the issue is, right? That it's like it's kind of a selfish, personal thing. That's like, well, because I'm a bit of a a bore. I'm gonna kill everybody. Like literally, like there's no. It doesn't have like.
Well,
that's the thing.
I think the savior line. I think the
right?
savior line though is when he says, because homie is like you. He's like, oh, if you do, you want to kill everyone else because you're gonna die, which I think he tried to set up, and I thought it was cheesy. I think he sets that up when he talks to Elizabeth, and he's I don't remember the actress or the character's name.
If I can't have you, no one can.
Yes, and so I think that's a play into later when he's like, well, if I'm gonna die, then fine, the rest of the world can go with me. And he says, well, that's the act of a madman. He says, or a god. And so I think that's kind of that motivation situation where he's just like, this makes me a god, basically. And what I like though is that he thinks of himself so heavy, because he also tells her earlier where he's like, when you don't negotiate with a tiger, you just admire it, blah blah. So he thinks of himself as this big man. But what's cool is that plot wise, he's actually just some stupid pawn. The people from the future just found the easiest guy to do this thing with, and so he was chosen. And that's why when he first found that first shipment or whatever, it had his name on it already. Like they just picked a guy. And so I like that he never was anything more than just a pawn.
Yeah, and that's fine, and that works like to some extent thematically. And there is a line about tigers that got both Adam and I going about admiring tigers. How like you don't fight a tiger, you just admire it from a distance. Like it's literally, and it's Kenneth Branagh says that with a thick Russian accent in the film.
Did it make you think? Did it make you both think about a tiger that you admire?
It made me think of you.
Yeah, but I think we were both thinking of different tigers. I don't think either of us were thinking of you.
I was thinking of Scott all 3 times.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was gonna text you. But...
It's fine. Like I don't actually mind his motivation that much, except that you said that it was like hastily slapped on at the very end.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, well, and it was also just a little mustache twirly. It kind of was like there wasn't really anything deeper to him. He's just bad guy.
Which I would have actually really enjoyed if, funny enough, if he overplayed it a bit. He was already kind of there. He was already kind of not quite a clown, but he was getting there. He was approaching fucking what's his name from Jupiter Ascending.
Eddie Redmayne.
Redmayne. He was approaching that.
Best actor winner, Eddie Redmayne.
You know what? That's a good example.
And I love that stuff, by the way. I love like an overacting.
I love it in movies I don't like.
Chew that scenery.
I like it if I don't like the movie.
That. I like Jim Carrey and Sonic or whatever.
Right, but I don't like Sonic, so that's why it works.
Any sort of like over the top villain, I'm all over that shit. If Kenneth was just a little bit more over the top, would have completely bought it. I would have fully bought it. But it's like he's just like played very straight.
He's almost there, but he's not quite there. You're right.
He's played like Gary Oldman from Air Force One. It's like it's.
You know what? Here's a good example. Gary Oldman in The Professional.
Oh yes,
that is one of the only times I can think of where a villain is that hammy, and I still take the movie 100% seriously, and I still
that's
love
a lot of
movie.
just him doing the heavy lifting.
He is so hammy, and that movie is so good. Well, it's him and I think also what's her face is I think Natalie Portman actually like really
that's right
best child acting I've maybe ever seen. That and Atreyu when Artax is drowning in the swamp of sadness is probably just that one scene though.
I have not seen it, but I might.
You haven't seen Neverending Story?
No.
Oh my God, Gael.
I'm not from. This is one of those holes.
That's true.
This is one of those holes in my. I've talked about this gaps in knowledge that I don't get
because you weren't growing up watching those American movies and stuff.
So, well, the other problem is that
what's funny.
I was gonna say what's funny is for some reason I I didn't see Neverending Story or Princess Bride like as a kid, even though I was the exact right age to see both.
Okay.
Like I didn't see either until I was in probably like my late teens, maybe 20s.
Well, funny. The thing is, I don't know if you guys are the right age, because I think I'm actually a little too young, and I just happen to have substantially older siblings. So I'm adopted. My dad was 45 when I was born. So my dad is like 75 years old now. So I have siblings who are old enough to be like my parents. And so I got a lot of more exposure, I think, than a kid my age would have to 80s stuff, because they had grown up with that stuff. And so it kept getting like passed on to me. So I think that's where some of that is. I don't think necessarily you guys are like behind. I was just like weirdly connected into that era of things a little bit more. But they were also like wildly Christian, so there was a lot of like other things I missed out on too, though. Like I didn't grow up like listening to like Metallica. Most of my friends' dads grew up listening to Metallica, so things like that were kind of like weird.
Makes sense.
Also, he's just old, so it wasn't even Metallica; it was like the Beach Boys. You know, I mean, like 75. I mean, yeah, dude, the kid was, you know, he's literally like that epitomized boomer, you know, age. Or it's like, oh man,
and he's voting in a month.
He's voting because those guys are looking out for him.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
that's his voting block. And honestly, it's, you know what, it's that same problem we had when we were talking about apps and the whatever gets the most limbic response or whatever is the thing that, you know, I feed the most, whatever gives me whatever numbers I want. So the problem is that because young people don't show up to vote as much as my dad shows up to vote, they cater to him
their
more.
Prune juice.
Keep on catering. Yeah,
it's
why wouldn't you
get in there?
Ooh, one more thing too. I'm looking at this list. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up. What do you think of Robert Pattinson?
I liked him. I liked Robert Pattinson in general. He was by far the most charming character in the film.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate because he played a more minor role than everyone else. It just kind of shows the lack of writing to some extent that the actors had to work with.
It makes me wonder
whose name I keep forgetting.
Elizabeth Debicki. She played
That's
Kat.
it. She was, you know, good. I liked her. I actually thought all the performances were good except for the protagonist.
And his wasn't bad. It just wasn't.
I don't think he was given anything. Like he was just given like straight lines and told to deliver them straight to the camera, and that was it. And I was like,
and I think some of it to me just felt like a new actor. It felt like this is almost too big of a role for him to have, and it makes me wonder if that last name had anything to do with it.
You know, it's funny having seen Twilight now, and you know, and
I was going to say, was it the best Pattinson movie you've seen in the last week?
And The Lighthouse, and you know, Good Time, and all that stuff. I like Robin Pattinson's really grown on me, and I now completely get the hype, the Twilight hype from like whenever that movie came out, where everyone was like taking sides and like being like, oh my god, he's so dreamy.
But he was bad in Twilight. Like we can agree.
Good. He
was bad.
But again, he wasn't given like
how I want to see.
No, but there was no reason to like him as an actor just seeing Twilight.
No, you're right.
No. But it's hard because how do you deliver those lines? I've said that about Jared Leto playing Joker. It's just like how show me anybody deliver those lines and it'd be good. You know, it's like I just don't know.
Yeah, no, like I don't blame the actor. It's just from what you see.
I do kind of blame the actor a bit, but I get what you're, because like in Twilight, like there was some really questionable shit. But I have a feeling that I think he was just told to do that.
Well, he was also young too. So there's also room that he actually has literally just developed as a better actor, because
he's absolutely improved.
So
as an actor. He's
I'm
gotten
definitely
very
looking forward to watching the rest of the series and seeing him grow as an actor.
I don't know if he grows over Twilight. I think it takes other movies for him to grow.
When's the first and when's the last? What's this year?
What is the spread? That's a good question. I'll look it up.
2000 and
when's the first one? Like 2003?
It was 2008 to 2012.
2008, 2012.
Eight to 13.
How many movies is it?
Like 4.
Five movies within 3 years?
Yeah, it says budget total 5 films, and it says
3.
2008
No,
to 2012.
it's three and a two-parter, so one per year. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
8.
Oh
9, 10,
wow,
11,
they came
12,
out every fucking year. That's insane.
Oh yeah,
that's so crazy.
They were on it.
Star Wars, they took like years between. Wow, they did it every year. Well, I mean, you can see the quality too. You can see.
And then
when
was Good Time? 2017.
17.
So what was he doing between? This is like a resume thing where it's like you pick out. It's like there's a gap in your work history here. Could you explain,
Mr. Pattinson, what were you doing between?
Well, you know, he did say though that movie was like poison for him. Like no one wanted to hire him for a long time.
He was in some bits and pieces. Like he was in 2016. He was in The Lost City of Zed, which wasn't bad. And he was in some stuff, but like nothing that hit.
Not a lot, though. Yeah, not a lot.
Oh, and he was in a Cronenberg movie, Cosmopolis. Was that
No
it?
clue.
Am I crazy?
Movies don't sort of
Someone,
like Queen of the Desert.
someone back me up. Tell me I'm not crazy. Now I gotta look it up.
Eric Packer, David Cronenberg. Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, 2012. I didn't know. Oh, he was in like Remember Me, which was like another piece of crap.
Ah, yes.
Water for Elephants. People who like that movie really
Water
like
for
that
Elephants.
movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's that
either.
like? 2011.
He was in like rom-coms because he's like, he was that guy, right? He was in Twilight.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, young
True,
girls are going to
yeah.
want to watch like girls fall in love with him and him be
Yeah.
unavailable emotionally. Like literally, dude, I'm looking here. I have like Remember Me. It's like a romantic, just sappy romance. Twilight is also 2010. Also 2010, Love and Distress, another sappy romance. Like they were just, and then Water for Elephants in 2011, and then Twilight Breaking Dawn. Like it was just a bunch of these sappy romance movies that kept putting them in. It's kind of like what's his face used to suck. We talked about this before.
Adam
Matthew
Sandler?
McConaughey.
Yeah.
They just were like, he just got typecast to hell, and they kept putting him in the same kind of crappy movie. Gerard Butler too. They kept putting him in the same crappy movies.
Is he good? What's he in? Other than obviously the really big ones from early and then the shit ones from later.
Talking about Gerard Butler.
I think it's that. I think you've nailed it.
Gerard Butler. God, you're right. He's in some bad movies lately.
Was he in?
I liked him in
No,
Timeline.
who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Kevin Costner. You know, their faces to me are the same.
I just completely
They're
couldn't
like-
disagree.
I was like-
They're not.
I was like,
take
I was
another
like,
look.
I was like,
Take
was he
Revisit
another
in-
look.
I was like, was he in A Beautiful Mind?
I
No,
think you might
that's
have. I
Kevin
think you might have
Costner.
face blindness.
I might.
I know a lady who does. Brad Pitt does too.
Who
Yeah.
Brad Pitt has face blindness?
He
Or does he
does.
look like Gerard Butler?
Both. No, he says he has face blindness.
Both.
He says if you showed him a picture of like Marilyn Monroe, he would have to use like context clues to know who it was.
Did you say Kevin Costner was in A Beautiful Mind?
Who am I
Yeah, he
thinking
did
of?
say that. Okay, no,
Russell Crowe.
And
Russell Crowe.
Okay, now
Okay,
I know
those
what you're
guys.
saying.
No, that's what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, because we were like,
Those
you're
guys.
insane. That guy doesn't
Those
look anything.
guys.
Okay,
So
no.
that-
Russell
Trio.
Crowe looks more like
Much
Gerard
more.
Butler than Kevin Costner.
That's
does.
who I
I'll give
meant.
you that.
That's who I
You're still
meant.
crazy.
I
but
may,
I'll
I
give
may
you
have
that.
disagreed with him if he didn't start with Kevin Costner. Now that we're going back to that,
That's
I'm
who
like,
I
oh,
meant.
now I see it.
That's the thing. He started way off, then he brings you
Right.
any amount in. You're like, oh, I guess
Oh, no,
that's
now I
reasonable
get it,
compared
yeah.
to that other crazy
Yeah.
bullshit.
If I didn't
It's
hear
like-
Kevin Costner, I would have been like, no.
It's like the conversation we were having the other time about like how like every like current female actor who's like blonde looks the same to me. Like that's just
Yeah.
like I can't tell them apart at all.
yeah,
he had a gun to my head.
I'd be pretty okay with that. Let's see. He's in The Devil All the Time. I need to watch that here soon. It's on Netflix.
I just watched it. It was pretty good.
It was good. Okay, cool. I'm actually, I don't hate Tom Holland. So I kind of want to.
I haven't seen him in. I don't think
No,
I've seen him in anything.
I've seen him in Spider-Man, and I saw him in like something I forget. I think he was like kind of a side character in something. So I'm like, okay, I'll give him a
It's
chance.
actually not true. I have seen him depicted in pornography,
Ooh,
so I don't know if that counts.
word,
Depicted.
dude.
Yeah,
y'all want to talk about deepfakes?
Yes, depicted. Any further questions?
Are they? Was he deepfaked
Nope,
or was he?
no further
Was it
questions.
like stills?
No,
I
it
believe
was,
it was
like
was it art?
it was art.
Oh, okay.
It was drawn art.
You guys,
it was
does
visual art.
deepfake? Do you guys? All right, personal questions.
Is there
do you,
deepfake pornography?
Do you, no. Do you guys watch deepfake pornography? And if you do, does it work on you?
No.
Is there deepfake pornography?
Dude, that's the
'Cause this
first
is
thing
news
it
to
was
me.
used for. That's like the only thing it's used for.
That's
Alright.
why it was invented.
Yeah,
I've just heard about it now, so I can.
that's so funny. Yeah, no, that's like
I'm
the-
also generally not
no,
attracted
no, I
to
don't watch it.
celebrities.
not attracted to what?
Celebrities in general.
Oh,
Like-
interesting.
Like I like something is off-putting
I can
about
get
it
that.
about their faces.
About their
like
faces?
no, I'm not even kidding. Like maybe it's just that I can't tell like Kevin Costner and Russell Crowe apart.
It's that face blindness you got.
Like it's something about it's just everything is it's just I can't like people have celebrity crushes, but like as kids they're like, oh, who's your celebrity crush? I'm like, I don't know. Am I supposed
Yeah.
to have one?
Yeah, I
It's
get that.
weird for me to consider that.
I think
Like,
part of my
There's just
problem-
kind of an unrealness to it.
with like very few exceptions. But the exception I'm thinking of are not where they're depicted in films. It's just like independent people who I'm like, yes, like
Sure.
I'm thinking of Alan Rickman. I'm thinking of Timothy Dalton. I'm thinking of
Why is it always old guys?
because that's those guys are
Got
good.
a daddy fetish.
Um,
I'm like
fuck,
Helen
one more.
Mirren,
Michael Caine.
Yeah, no,
Like, they're old now, but they used to.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. You're right. They weren't
Who am I
always.
thinking
They
of?
weren't
The
born
really,
old.
funny enough, these days, not bad looking. Jeff Goldblum. Like
You got a serious
Not-
daddy
Goldblum can
thing
get it.
going
Not
on.
even
Goldblum can
kidding.
get it for sure.
like
Yeah.
right now,
I
like
don't
back
get
in
it.
when he
He
was
was
like
really
making
good
movies
looking
as a
back in the
young
day.
person, I was like, like
I
when
think
he was
the exact
younger,
opposite. That's
he
so
had
funny.
This like he
In The
had
Fly,
that
he was
plastic
so
thing
hot.
that like I don't like about celebrities, but
Yeah,
like young
that's
looking
true.
celebrities,
That's
where
true.
it's like,
Yeah.
like it's like that I can't get it. But then they get older, and it's like there's a human being there, and I can see like and I was like, yeah, that's
You know what's
I'd
funny?
fuck that.
My problem with him now is that he honestly is a little off-putting. I think he would make me feel a little uncomfortable with him, and that definitely plays into like my attraction level with people.
Probably your sexuality has something to do with that as well, but
I don't know. I like to think that I can
You can get
put
it
myself in
with-
those shoes. Well, because like I think Robert Pattinson's very attractive. I think Jude Law's very
Yeah, I
attractive.
feel like I can recognize
Yeah.
hotness in men.
And to me,
even
like
if
I
don't
said,
wanna
and
necessarily
those guys
fuck
don't
them.
make me feel uncomfortable. That's the thing. The way he acts, I feel like I can't get what's in his head. He feels like a wild card. He's and the little it kind of makes me think of jazz, and I play, and I'm kind of like it makes.
Oh no,
me
yeah,
like,
Goldblum has definitely raped. I think we can all agree.
I wouldn't call that
Yeah.
far.
I
But
think he's still
definitely-
cool, though.
But yeah, no, it's like that's a weird one for me. I think about I'm with you. I think part of my problem is I'm very like a lot of attraction for me is dictated by emotional connection, and so I don't have any of that with actors. And so I have that kind of issue as well, where it's like people, all my friends be like, oh my God, Megan Fox is so hot. And a lot of those girls come across very cold and unavailable to me. So it kind of like dampens that,
And there's just kind of like a fakeness to them.
I get that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, well, because they're literally acting. Maybe that's an uncanny valley thing in like your subconscious brain that's going like this person's behaving and the screen is telling me this, but I'm not feeling this because it isn't actually real. They're pretending. So maybe there's like this guard in your brain telling you you're being lied to. I could see that being a thing. That would be interesting. You guys check out the Batman trailer?
Yes, I've seen it.
I have not yet.
How have you gone this far and you haven't seen?
I don't know.
That's just so great. You're not curious if it's gonna look good or not.
I guess not if I haven't
That's
watched
funny.
it.
That's
But
fair.
Honestly,
I
like
could-
I wasn't either, and then I heard Adam praising it, the trailer in particular, and I was like, all right, I'll watch the trailer. That was the only reason I watched it, because actually, legit, I'm not interested in general, and I actually have been not interested in DC products for a while now.
Totally
I
fair.
think it's because it's DC was hurting it for me. Also, like I really don't watch a lot of trailers. So,
So like,
Okay.
I don't watch Marvel because I don't care about any of their properties.
Yeah, they
I don't
all
watch
suck.
DC because it breaks my heart because it's always bad.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's like there's no. Like, I think The Dark Knight was the last DC film that I really truly enjoyed, with no strings attached, and I loved that film.
Totally.
I haven't revisited it in a while, and I don't know if it holds up. But when that film came out, for me, it was like untouchable.
For me, it's that and Joker.
Yeah, I haven't seen Joker for kind of similar reasons that I just described, where I feel like,
Okay.
yeah, just like I don't trust. I have to trust.
I mean, Joker's not going to
People
disappoint
making
you
it.
like a Justice League or something.
No,
It's very
no,
different.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, at worst, it may be like Tenet, where you're like, I liked it, but it's not, for me. I think that's kind of where Ralph really was, but he got so much shit that he had to like really double down and then just be like, no, I just don't like it.
What did Ralph say about what?
Oh, Ralph was very negative about Joker, but I think
see.
a lot of that was he didn't like the sycophancy around it, and I think that when he
And he was like pushing back against
yes,
it.
and
That's
when
that's definitely not helping me, by the way. Like, because I'm also
For
like,
sure,
a little
for
bit,
sure.
It's like
I get it. Oh, I've been there. I've been totally hipstery about stuff where it's like everyone is sucking something's dick
Oh
so
my
hard
god!
that I'm
I
like,
just realized that makes me a hipster.
you're a
Feels
booby
bad, man.
hipster.
I don't like it because it's too cool. Like everyone else
Yeah.
likes it.
Other people like it, so I don't.
I used to listen to Arcade Fire until everyone else found out who they were, and then. Do you okay? But what were your? Give us your quick thoughts on the trailer though.
On the trailer of The Batman.
Of the Batman, starring Robert Pattinson and Paul.
I mean,
Dano or Dano.
Dano.
I'll say that it just looks basic. Like I can't get anything out of the film from the trailer at all.
Well-
Like, I have no finger on the pulse. The trailer has not helped me decide. Has literally been neutral to me. It's not helped me decide one way or the other whether or not I will even watch this film.
See, to me, I feel like it gave me the tone, and it told me less of what it is and more what it's not. It's not the Justice League, and so like. If I see that trailer and then I go watch a movie that is the Justice League, it will be like the greatest magic trick swap out anyone's ever done. It would be like watching the trailer to I don't know, Transformers, and then you show up and see the movie and it's Schindler's List. You're just like, how did you get?
And it's a quiet art film.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like it's like it.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It just felt to me, like I said, a lot of people I think have made very fair comparisons to this feeling a lot more like Seven. and like especially if you watch the trailers back to back. I think Riddler feels a lot like John Doe. And I think the detective-y aspect of trying to figure out these riddles from this serial killer kind of guy, and then literally like the cinematography style, all of that to me screams a very much more serious, dark kind of art. And I don't even want to use the word dark because that's been used for Zack Snyder too much. Like I feel like we're not going to get a Zack Snyder.
That's just
movie.
used for everything these days. Everything's just
Is it a dark, gritty reboot? I've never heard that before.
It's if it turns out to be like 7, I'll be all over it. Like, because obviously I like 7, and I think that that's a good direction for this character. I think like the character of the Batman needs to be like I always think of like Kevin Conroy. I think of like a sleuthy, smart,
100%,
dude,
the world's greatest detective.
So like having in the trailer, him just beating a guy up to a pulp. Made me more like, nah, this just feels like fan service for the people who want to see violence.
That's that one part though.
It's like.
The rest of it, though, it's him like getting like the clues and stuff, and
I get that.
hanging out in the back cave.
But like,
if you hone in on the one bit, like you need to have like a moment that people are going to talk about.
No, but like, here's the
moment.
thing, right? Because that moment makes me talk about it negatively because I'm so tired of seeing Batman, especially even in the Nolan trilogy, like just being depicted when he's fighting as just this kind of like brute who beats people up, and that's what makes him cool. And it's like that's just boring to me.
Yeah, I get
because
that.
like Batman is so much more than that to me as a kid growing up. Like he's a ninja, right?
Absolutely,
and it's like I've never, no one's, not even Nolan, who in Batman Begins was playing with the idea of this guy being a ninja,
and completely
he's just like fisting, just like fucking punching people in the face, and that's it. And it's like I want to see like a Batman like in an Adam West style cloth suit, like in spandex or some shit, so he can do some fucking flips for once. I'm tired of this like armored like Zack Snyder.
Yeah, let's
Frank
get some
Miller
fucking
shit.
Mobility.
Yeah, give me some mobility on this ninja. Why are we putting this ninja in a fucking
I don't have
suit?
a strong opinion on this.
Or have him be like Genji from Overwatch, where it's like he's in a suit, but it's like a slick fucking suit that he can still do backflips and shit in. Have that. I'm so tired of this like overdone. He's just a machine that beats people up because he's a fucking brute and he can fuck you up. It's like I'm tired of it. Just
I
give
don't
me
have strong
else.
opinions about the fighting parts. To me, it's that I think he needs to have more to him than just that, and that's what I didn't like about the Nolan movies so much. Although I still think they're the best depictions of Batman we've had, I just think that was an issue. To me, the story plot line for it should be, because it's Detective Comics as DC, right? They used to make like Dick Tracy. I think that's what it should be. I think what it should be is that crime happens. Now he has to detective and find a lead. The lead takes him to a place where then he has to go fisticuffs, gets a clue. That takes him to another lead to go to another place. And the fight scene should be payoffs from the detective work he's been doing. But in a lot of the Chris Nolan movies, he's kind of this very reactionary character who things just kind of happen around him and he gets almost like led by the hand to places. And I wasn't a fan of that part, So I think if they can pull that off here, that will be a big win for me for Batman. What I also am excited about is that they're doing year 2 Batman. And Nolan did year 1 Batman, but he felt like year 10 Batman. And so I'm excited about like a Batman who's figuring it out still. I think that could be a nice way to kind of defang him a little bit so he doesn't feel like he's just such a shoo-in to like whoop everyone's ass.
You can't defang a bat. They need those.
They do need those. Well, one thing someone brought up an interesting point. I heard someone had a really interesting kind of like social dynamic point about this trailer. And they were saying that one of the problems they have with the non-fantasy style Batman, who's kind of more like real and gritty, is that in like a Chris Nolan movie, he's got all kinds of amazing, wonderful gadgets, right? Well, so why is he more efficient at catching criminals than the cops are? Well, because of the fantasy elements. He has all these amazing, wonderful gadgets that the cops don't have access to.
It's not his ingenuity, it's the machines.
Yes, because the problem is that with this current Batman, well, why is a Batman who doesn't really have any better tech than the cops? Why can he catch the Batmans? Well, because he can break the Constitution. So he can just go and beat the shit out of you without asking.
Because he's a criminal
vigilante. So if the movie doesn't do a good job of showcasing that he's not a good guy for doing that, then it's basically saying, God, the cops would be a lot more effective if they could just go beat the shit out of people and arrest them without
asking. Get rid of these dang rules.
It's interesting. I was like, I think they're a little overthinking something that's just like a superhero story, but it's an interesting take. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. That would be really interesting. The whole concept of just like a gritty, realistic Batman, though, is one that I just don't want anymore. I'm just so tired of it. Yeah. I don't want it. Like I want Tim Burton back. I want high fantasy, like high concept Batman. I want like high contrast, like beautiful. I want like fucking, what do you call them? The art pieces of the Wizard of Oz. They have these canvases in the background for everything. Like there's like painted shit. I want that for Gotham. Like I want high contrast, sick shit. Like I want Batman to be some fucking twink. I want like, I want him to be like in like a thin suit, and I just want like fucking the DC animated universe. Someone to take that and apply it and make it a film. And that's it. Just someone give me that. If you're listening, some producer in Hollywood, I will pay.
I want those.
It'll make money.
I want those kinds of things from movies like Into the Void or Climax and stuff. I don't think I necessarily want that. It was the same, like I said, with Jodorowsky. I want Jodorowsky films. I just don't want them to be Dune. So I think that's like the big difference we have. Is I like the kind of movie you're describing, but I don't think I like it for Batman.
I think it would work. I think like just get Bruce Timm, get the people who worked on the DC animated universe. Just get them to make it as close to that as possible in terms of tone.
Well, that's not Twinkie at all, though, or bright and vibrant. Like the animated series was very.
No, I know, but like it was also not like gritty and like it wasn't like a Gotham, like that show or whatever. Like it wasn't like a like a realistic like, oh, he's like the police and everyone's got like it's like modern America. It's like feels like it's set in America. I don't want it to feel like it's set in America.
You want that fantasy aspect.
Did you guys hear that? It's getting a show too. It's going to be on HBO Max. That's going to cover year one.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay.
That'll be great.
So I mean, certainly it's not going to be Pattinson.
Actually, so that's one point we kind of totally skimmed over because we talked about Pattinson. I actually don't know how he's going to be in this. I mean,
that's why
I'm
I brought
looking
it up.
forward to it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We're already on the Pattinson.
It'll take time, I think, for my brain to get used to his face in the role. Mm-hmm. But I mean, because by the way, I never got used to Christian Bale's face in the role. Like,
no,
I just don't. I don't think he fit.
I just don't think he was good. I don't think he's. I don't think he's an unbelievable actor. Like I said,
I don't think he was a good fit.
The Prestige is like the best I've seen him.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen a good Batman.
You haven't seen Equilibrium?
I did not like it. Here's my problem with Equilibrium.
That's a movie we could do a commentary on, by the way.
We could. It's also a lot of fun. Here's the problem I have with Equilibrium. It's an enjoyable experience. I wouldn't call it a good movie. I think that it tries too hard to be two disparate things, and it failed at both. So if it wanted to be a very
Matrix style, like
yes, like if it just wanted to be like the Gun Fu movie, it could have been a really awesome Gun Fu movie. If it wanted to be this like 1984 well, even V I think has the same kind of problem.
Okay.
And so if it was going to be this really introspective government commentary, like kind of 1984 style, it could have been that. But because it wanted to mesh those two,
to marry the two,
it just kind of wasn't deep enough. So it kind of just felt edgy. It felt like that's what I like about edgy. Well, it's fun.
It has that
I was gonna say
edginess.
I think it came out when I was. I think it came out when I was 18. I'm like, this rocks.
And
definitely felt flat. It was a tire fire.
Well, V for Vendetta, I feel the same way.
So fast.
V is like,
I actually like V. I think that had at least good writing. At least it had good writing.
It has better writing. There's still a lot of edgelord stuff to it now that kind of like throws me more than it did when I was younger. Yeah. There are also like a lot of things that kind of, it's like baby's first philosophy lesson, which if you think about it, a lot of Wachowski stuff is that, like the Matrix, the whole Matrix series is basically ways for them to try to introduce like old philosophical concepts and try to like give them legs in some kind of action genre, which is, I definitely give a lot of praise to the sequels for trying those things as much as the sequels aren't that good. I think
we should have more of that. I think that's a good thing. Someone should do that for like, wasn't that for like Einstein, for like the theory of relativity or something? You know what I'm saying? You said that Interstellar was trying to do that.
It did do that.
Like I think like there's a lot of shit that
that's actually what I was gonna say. Is that's Nolan?
Is
I think
slightly undereducated on, and like we could make them sexy. Let's make some of these like talking like a producer now.
Yeah,
let's take these
what a kid's like.
Take Marx. Let's take Karl Marx next. Let's put him put him in a movie or something.
That's
make it sexy for the kids.
Well, they kind of do specifically that. I mean, you definitely see these like biopics that where they kind of make them seem like heroes, like literal like
but you know like a narrative,
heroes.
Like a story.
No, for sure. I think it's funny. I like this I like this character of the like altruistic producer who's like
who just wants to educate.
Yeah, exactly. He just wants to help the people, so he's trying to figure out how to like sexify like educational things. Like I love that.
Yeah.
No, I think Nolan is doing a bit of a service for that. It is kind of cool to get some of these more interesting, headier ideas into big movies. He doesn't always nail it perfectly, but I would rather this than another Transformers.
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
Just take Transformers and shoehorn something in. You can make it work.
Well, it's the Matrix. I mean, it did a great job with that stuff. Of it's basically Plato's The Cave, you know, and it
to a large extent.
It messes with all of the
mind dualism.
And like, you know, how do we know that we're conscious, and if you are conscious, is it real, and what's the difference between real
some Cartesian stuff there.
Something perfectly real, or something that's like a perfect representation of what's real, and then something that is real. Like, is there even a difference at a certain point? There's also like fun little literary things he does, like Agent Smith's license plate is a quote. It's like a what do you call it? It's a chapter verse from the Bible where it's like God talking about, I send you a smith who bloweth the fire of whatever. It's like those things are fun too for guys like me who actually like get, you know, nerd out and like, oh, what's that? I wonder if that's a reference. Well, I just saw Mandy for like the 4th time too, and it got me. I haven't
seen it yet.
I really enjoy it, and it got me like googling. It's fun because there's a lot of references that you're like, this has to be something. Like literally, like they'll go out of their way. Oh, what are you reading? A novel. Oh, like who's it by? Oh, it's by this person, first name, last name. It's like, okay, that has to be something. But then you look it up and no, like it's made up for the movie and they actually have like poetry connected to that thing. So I think those are fun. Same thing with Under the Silver Lake. It has a million of those kinds of like,
a lot of like
pause that, write that down, you know.
Yeah, non-diegetic stuff.
Yes, yeah, basically right. You're right. Yeah, literally like the opening scene has like 10 of those. It's like someone's shirt has different animals on it, and the first letter of each of the animals like spells lake or something. Yeah, the movie and stuff like that. Like there's all those kinds of things, and those are always fun. I think they're a lot of fun. Andrew Garfield, what do you guys think about him, man? He's an anomaly for me.
I've literally only seen him in one thing, which was Under the Silver Lake.
Oh, okay. You didn't see The Social Network.
You didn't see his Spider-Mans?
I have not seen his Spider-Mans.
Well, you lucked out missing the Spider. So that's my problem. I've seen all of those, and man, when he's good, he's good. And when he's not. So I guess I'm at like a wash. Like I don't know what to do with him. I don't know.
If Tom Holland made a movie like Under the Silver Lake, I would have watched that, and that would have been my only thing.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
I get that.
These Spider-Mans or whatever. It's like I've only seen them in movies that I like to see, so I don't know how to fucking judge these actors.
No, that makes sense. That's fair. Well, sometimes you just miss. You know,
same with Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson's the first time I've ever gone back on an actor who I've for the first time seen in a film that's serious, and like now I'll go back to revisit his less serious work. Yeah. And like maybe I'll do that for Andrew Garfield at some point and visit some of his, let's call it less serious work.
Well, before you do that though, I do recommend. Do you like Fincher movies in general?
No, actually.
Okay,
I don't hate them. I don't hate them.
Sure.
Some of them are good, but some of them I don't like. Like I didn't like Zodiac, for example.
I didn't.
Oh, I like Zodiac.
I didn't dislike it. I do like it, but I think other people like it more than I do. I think most people like it more than I do.
That's fair. I liked Fight Club a lot, obviously.
I really like Fight. Obvious. I don't know if that's obvious.
Well, I started a Fight Club at some point. Not even.
Well,
kidding.
Now it's more obvious.
Just because I wanted to get punched in the face. I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel alive.
Destroy something beautiful.
I put myself in the same position as the protagonist from the book / movie.
I always offer to punch you in the face, and you're like, no.
Well, he got it out of his system. He got it out of his system.
I guess. Yeah, we always do it. Got it out early. In the room. I can't have him.
He figured it out.
Thinking I'm some softy.
You always beat up Jared Leto. That's what you do. You got to go find Jared Leto. Go beat the crap.
I would love to beat up Jared Leto.
He got to. That's the dude whose face gets turned into a pulp in that movie. He's got blonde hair.
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I didn't. Someone had to tell me. Someone had to tell me that's Jared Leto. I'm like, oh shit.
Well, and I didn't really know him at the time. Like I think I saw Requiem for a Dream after Fight Club, so I wasn't like And then 30 Seconds to Mars got real big in like 2006 or 7 or something. So I just didn't really like. Yeah. Have his face figured out. I recognized Meatloaf before I recognized him. Or Helena Bonham Carter. Let me think, Fincher is to kind of hit or miss for me for sure. Like, again, like Nolan, none of them are like bad. None of them I say like, this is like a bad movie, but they're just, I didn't, Gone Girl didn't like sweep me away. Panic Room is actually the only one. I don't like Panic Room. I think it's all right.
I thought it was. I thought it was fine.
I haven't seen Panic Room.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
It might have been Kristen Stewart.
Most others I've seen, I really like.
Yeah, Panic Room just didn't. Oh, Jared Leto is also in that. That's so funny.
Did you know that Howard Shore did the score for Panic Room?
I don't know who Howard Shore is.
I was like, he's the guy who did the score for Lord of the Rings.
Oh, dope.
That's the only other thing I know him for.
Fascinating.
It's like, and I was looking at his thing, and he was like, he did it for Panic Room. I'm like, what?
Very
that
interesting.
doesn't. And then I listened to the soundtrack, and it was like nothing like it. I was like, how did this guy make the Lord of the Rings soundtrack?
That's funny. I had the opposite experience just now. I found out Ludwig Göransson or whoever just did the soundtrack for Tenet, and he did the soundtrack for Black Panther, and it sounds shockingly similar to me.
They're the same. They sound similar.
It's definitely not like song for song like Hans Zimmer. If you guys ever watch Gladiator and Pirates of the Caribbean, like goddamn, those are like some of the songs almost sound like it's the same song. But he uses so many motifs. He uses the same motifs like a lot. Like how you can pick out the first like 4 Linkin Park albums. You can hear a song, and if you don't know the song, you'll be like, yeah, that's Linkin Park. because the motifs are so similar.
Gladiator. That's Kevin Costner, right?
Yes,
Kevin Costner. You got it.
No, it was Gerard Butler. Actually, I think that was his early.
Yes. Sorry,
early Gerard Butler. I just watched it again.
It was a prequel to 300.
Dude, it's a tiny bit cheesy, but man, it's still so good.
Which one? Gladiator.
Gladiator.
I haven't seen all these movies. I haven't seen like more than over 15 years, like 10 years now.
That's fair.
I haven't
Well,
seen
you know
Gladiator.
what?
I haven't seen like the other one we were just talking about, Panic Room. Like
I haven't seen it again recently either. Maybe if I saw it again, I might have a different opinion.
I really want to revisit them. Equilibrium. I haven't seen in like 10 years.
I saw that relatively recently. Yeah. So some of these I've seen recently because I missed them the first time. So I like went back later and was like, you know what? Everyone's seen this and I haven't seen it. Let me make sure I see this. Because I didn't see like There Will Be Blood until like 2013 or something like that or whatever. And it like instantly was my favorite movie. But some of these I resaw because I was talking to a lady friend and was catching her up on movies. So it was like a nice opportunity for me to also be like, hey, you haven't seen Gladiator? You gotta watch Gladiator. And then I was like, well, I haven't really seen it in 15 years. Let me revisit that. Like I saw The Matrix 1 like 11 times when it first came out and then didn't see it again for 20 years.
I watched The Matrix on the regular. It's a movie I throw.
I had it like on VHS or whatever. So it'd just be like on, you know. And that was one too. I assumed I probably would give it a lot more points because of just like nostalgia, but seeing it again, I was like, no, this is actually still a pretty fucking good movie, man. Like that first one's pretty darn good. Elrond is pretty good. It took me a long time before. It took me a long.
Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, Mr. Weaving. What do you guys think about Samara Weaving?
Who is that?
That is his niece, and
What has she been in?
So her daddy and what he does. So recently she was in Bill and Ted Face the Music, which I'll guess none of us saw.
Nope.
Yep. And then had no interest in seeing that. Then she was in Ready or Not. She's the bride, the main character, basically the victim. Then she was in Guns Akimbo.
Scott, any input? You're the expert on child actors in this room.
She's the expert on. She's not really a child, but the only thing
I forgot that Hugo Weaving's like 75.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
She's like
the only thing I've seen her
28.
in is only thing I've seen her in is 3 Billboards.
Oh, she was in 3 Billboards. Who was she in that?
Yeah, she was Penelope, which I don't know how highly billed she's in. I don't think it's that big a character.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I saw Guns Akimbo because it got
Your
released.
mic just turned off, Scott. Scott?
What?
Oh, there we go. Now it's working. Never mind.
I saw her in Guns Akimbo because it last minute got pulled from theaters and was released on VOD instead. And so I was like, well, fuck it. I guess I'm sitting here. I guess I'll watch it. And I think it's a big heaping pile of crap. Actually, it was really funny. I saw Adam's review of it like 2 months.
I remember Adam not liking it.
Yeah, it was so bad. Well, it was really interesting because his review, dude, you could almost play ours over each other. Like we had so many similar complaints, and he like pulled out specific scenes that were the exact scenes I was complaining about. I was like, okay, like vindication. Like it's not just me, because I got crapped on. That was one of my first videos that actually got some traction of people finding me because a lot of the big reviewers didn't see it because it got pulled out of theaters. And so I was one of the few places you could actually see a review on it early on. And so I got a lot of traction, but everyone was like, you're wrong. This movie's amazing. You're crazy. And so I was like, all right, it's not just me. But if you do want to watch, I was trying to think like, you know, those action movies that are just, Suicide Squad. Anyone who likes Suicide Squad probably would like Guns Akimbo.
Fair enough.
Just like
high praise.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just that, you know, if you like your movies to be described as high octane, if that's in your vocabulary for movie descriptions, then yeah, this might be the movie for you. But yeah, she hasn't really been in that much stuff. So, all right, well, cool. Yeah, man, you guys have anything in the future that you're getting ready that you're kind of looking out for?
Let me see.
Movie wise, you mean?
I guess either, if you have anything else going
on. I just saw that Fincher has a new one coming out that I didn't know about called Mank, about Herman J. Mankiewicz and producing Citizen Kane. So that looks interesting.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And Fincher's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what?
Which is his first feature since Gone Girl, like 6 years.
I probably will be seeing Airplane before next time.
I'll rewatch Airplane. Yeah, I love Airplane. Yeah, we can chat about Airplane. I love Airplane.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm
really
going to be
do.
watching like 25 movies between now. and
Right.
next time we
Yeah.
talk,
Right. No, for
'cause
sure.
I'm blasting through my top 10s for each year of the 2010s.
Why are you going so fast?
Because we're starting to put them out now, and we're putting them out one a week. So I got to
fucking shit. Okay.
I got well. We've recorded 20 since January. We've recorded 2010 through 2015, and we're ready.
Okay.
We're pretty much ready to go on 2016. So
Cool.
as long as we have 16, 17, 18, 19 done by it's like the first week of December, then we're good. And neither of us have a ton. Like, we have a manageable amount left to watch between now and when everything needs to air. So it's okay.
Okay. I'm excited. It just got announced, so who knows when it's going to come out. But what's it? Yorgos Lanthimos, he just said that he's going to do an adaptation. Let me figure out what that book is called. It is a book about a woman who decides to keep increasing her sleeping pill amount until she can sleep for an entire year, to like skip a year.
Interesting. I like it.
And it's very interesting because that doesn't sound like enough to make a book out of, but I read like the synopsis of what the book, and so things do actually happen. But that's a very interesting. A lot of people are also talking about the timing. They're like, "Oh man, I feel like that. I want to sleep away this year." Crap, what's that called? I think it's called my year. Yeah, my year of rest and relaxation.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Why did I think of that too?
Yay, we did it.
Did you guys both recently watch My Big Fat?
No, it's just that popped into my head.
Just when someone
As you
says
said
my
as the first word, and I was like, Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Everyone knows the proper
and he's Greek, so
everyone knows
that's
the next
true.
part.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it was a subconscious.
That's
thing
what it was. That's exactly what it was. Everyone knows that Chemical Romance is the finishing of that.
that's true.
No, you know what's funny though? So he's Greek and he's awesome, and then Panos Cosmatos made Mandy, and he's awesome. I'm starting to think that these Grecians, man, I'm hoping.
Yeah, there's two of them.
There are two of them.
That's
Man,
a
after just a brief 2,000-year slump, Greece is back, baby.
They're coming in. Well, I wonder. I think the reason they stick out to me is that they're both very surrealist, and so I'm curious if there's like a surrealist thing that's going to come out of Greece, or if it's just
they just
a huge
prefer
coincidence.
that world over where they're currently at. I think.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Sure, I guess when your country declares bankruptcy, maybe you're looking elsewhere
it's a heck of a thing, man.
For inspiration.
That's a heck of it, especially because I think for me, not keeping track of anything that happens anywhere in the world, it really hit me with like they felt like such a not Greece, surely not like that's a first world, that's a real country, like
that's a real country.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I love the idea that people think of it in terms of there's real countries and then there's
I think everyone does about like
the rest of the world.
I think a lot of people do that even with like people though, where it's I think that's why like when celebrities die, because 2.6 people a second or something die on the planet, but then like one famous person dies and everyone has to like take a breath, so I think there's this kind of I think we talked about that show Succession. They had that. It was like they owned a cruise line, and if anything illegal happened on the cruise line, instead of taking it back to America, they would go to this nearby like really poor country where they would like pay off all the people, the officials, to be like friendly towards them. And they had a policy that was no real persons injured. So it was like if it was a like pay by day staffer, if it was a dancer, if it was like a stowaway or something like that, and they like even if they died, it was like marked under no real persons injured. I think that there's a lot of that kind of really
what was
shitty.
that? Sorry, what
Succession, the TV show,
HBO
show.
Because we saw recently a documentary about the fucking park or whatever.
Yeah, Action Park.
Yeah. And then they had a similar policy.
Oh yeah, dude. Yep. Yep. Except I don't know if they had a white list of people who mattered. I feel like it was just kind of.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They just everyone.
Everyone was a no.
That
real
reminds me
persons.
of that real countries and not real countries. Remind me of an Onion video from a while ago called "U.S. Shocked Andorra Not in Africa."
That's very good.
Which I really enjoyed.
That's very good.
Yeah, that's basically, and like I said, it's like you have this feeling that like too big to fail when it comes to certain countries. So if I was to hear, that like I don't know, fucking Wales went bankrupt or something. It's like, no, those guys are like a part of that huge, you know. And so Greece felt like one of those countries to me. And I remember, and I was like 21
Greece
at the time.
felt like Wales.
Greece
should have been called New South Wales.
The East Wales, not South Wales. It's
New East Wales.
But yeah, those, you know, so it's that kind of thing. So it definitely started making me think a little bit more about like.
Yeah, no, every country can easily.
Well, of course, yeah.
Become shit.
Well, I feel like that with America. The same year,
America's getting there.
The same year, America dropped in like our credit rating. We were like AAA or something. We went down to like AA or something like in the same year. A lot of that based off of like difficulties with the housing crisis, you know. And that thing too, even the housing crisis meant like all of these like big first world countries were like one big problem away from just like wheelbarrows filled with cash, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, not then you have all these other metrics that people generally measure how well a country's doing, like infant mortality rate and unemployment and all the stuff that the US isn't even close to like being first on, not even like in the top 10. So it's like you gotta watch yourself.
Well, a lot of our propaganda machine has been very effective. Like we have convinced a lot of Americans to overlook those things in favor of like, I don't know,
pro-America stuff.
Yeah, it's just propaganda basically. Like there
was like a recent story about how Trump wants to like pro-America re-education or whatever. He wants to like
good.
You guys didn't see this?
No.
Like he was like, we should have this education program that actually teaches pro-America stuff.
Wow.
Like
so that's it, right? You know, if the
because
government...
the current education system is so anti-America.
It is. It's left. It's like these left-wing professors instilling these socialist tendencies into the students.
Well, a lot of that has to do with megaphones. Like if you go to Berkeley and then you record something and then you go and tell everyone that that's everywhere, you know, like that's kind of what's happening there. But that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot. Well, I mean, that's the thing too. Like even there's countries, I know people, like I had a friend from Germany who talked about how like patriotism like creeped him out here because it just looked so much like stuff that got them in huge trouble. You know?
Tons of like tourists or people that, you know, are there for school or something, like are shocked at the amount of flags.
I know. I had a friend in Australia.
What are all of these?
Same
for?
me too. Me too. Like first time I've been in America, even every time I go, it's always just a flag on every block.
Absolutely,
and it's like, that's insane to me. That's absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, this idea. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think some of that, we talked about this last time. Someone was saying how in English history, American history is told from the perspective of like heroes. And there's this thing where it's like we come from, you know, it's like my granddaddy bled for this fucking country, and like, you know, even in our national anthem, it's like the flag was still there, you know, and it's this. I mean, it's true that kind of. I don't want to use the word fascistic because I think that's over.
It's nationalism. It's just
nationalism.
It's
right.
There's a better word for it. It's ultranationalism, and that is creeping up on fascism and authoritarianism. It's creeping up on it.
I think they're cousins,
but it's adjacent to it.
I think they're cousins, for sure. And so it's and it took me a long time to even realize that wasn't like the norm. I just assumed that like English people were like that and that German people were like that. Everyone's, you know, just it's like a football team.
It's just you guys.
Yeah, no, really,
North Korea.
Seriously though, no, seriously.
And 36 Germany.
Even a friend from Australia, and I just remember feeling like, oh, you guys seem so close. How is that how are we missing each other so much? Back when I was like 17 or something like that. And so it has been like, that is interesting how, you know, even like the idea we used to have like classrooms, it was like every morning it was like you would you know, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America every morning.
That's crazy.
It's like when you're used to it, it's nothing. Whatever. You just do that, whatever, no big deal.
No. To an outsider, that's psychotic.
The first time I thought about it was when someone told me, how would you feel if you saw a bunch of German kids doing that? And I was like, oh shit, you're right. That is kind of weird, isn't it?
I lived in Lebanon for 14 years and I went to a private school in Lebanon, and we didn't do that like at the classroom level, but at the assembly level, we would sing the national anthem and the school anthem every morning. But like that's like every morning you would get to an assembly and then everyone goes to line. So, but
that doesn't
even
seem
like
weird to me though.
That's just giving you like an idea that even in like you know, a country like Lebanon, we don't do that shit in classrooms.
Yeah, for sure, right?
So it's like that's very like the idea that every day like in class you guys do that.
Well, and the really creepy part was it was like, you know, when I was like 11. You know, it's like it's these very little kids so if you want to talk about like a propaganda machine indoctrinating children to be like pro, you know, country or whatever and be like patriotic, then you get these little like 10 and 8-year-olds. Like, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And that's the opening is I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. It's a very interesting, that's weird.
And those are words, are words that like kids don't actually know what they mean.
Not one bit.
Like pledge and allegiance.
No idea.
Like, those are big words for kids.
Yeah.
Yep. and to the republic for which it stands. It's like, it's very interesting.
It's phrased weirdly.
Well, and also straight up one nation under God. So there's that as well. There's that propaganda. Well, that was why it's funny.
But you totally have separation of church and state.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Right. I know. Right. Our money, it's actually funny because I think our money used to be a lot more gangster than it is, because now it says like, what does it say? In God we trust.
In God we trust.
It used to say, out of many, one. I was like, that shit's gangster, man. That's dope. That's some Alexander the Great shit, man. Out of many.
Yeah,
one.
No, that's way better.
Get fucked. That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I'm like, bring that back. That's way cooler.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, there's a lot of those things that you don't think about them so much. It's kind of funny because like I grew up really Christian, and man, they do nothing but bitch about how like the atheists control everything, and we're becoming like a second-class citizens, and we're going to go to jail and blah blah blah. And then when you're not a Christian anymore, and you realize that they run everything, it's like everything. They have their fingers in so much stuff, and so much of our legal system is so heavily influenced by you know what the modern interpretation of the baby Jesus would have liked or not liked. It's so funny too, because it's just like the average Christian American would have been so offensive to like the real Jesus.
I think Louis has a bit on how Christianity wins. Like at the end, it's you have to teach them about how every religion is good, every religion is acceptable, but Christianity is the best. And it's like, if you don't believe that, what year?
Yep, exactly.
How do you measure your time?
Just ask someone what year it is. In the year of our Lord 2000 and whatever. It's crazy. It's so crazy, right? And and what it really is I think it's such a testament to the power that the Roman Empire had. It's like Christians try to sell that there must be a God because he chose this really crappy group of Jews who were not influential in the world to spread this religion with, and it worked, and it spread over the whole world. What they're leaving out,
run Hollywood and run the banks.
If you ask Jay-Z, what they don't say is that it is much more likely that it was the Holy Roman Empire who ended up carrying that flag, and it wasn't the Jews. And so if it wasn't for, I always say Charlemagne, but it was someone else, Constantine.
Yeah, kind of Constantine.
Whoever that first huge Roman emperor was who converted to Christianity, he had the actual firepower to do a convert or die campaign over the entire planet, and it lasted to the point where it hit England really hard, as England basically became like New Rome, and then England spread over and infected the new, the Americas, and then America took over, and then it's almost like this one huge religious zealotous powerful group just like kept hopscotching across like.
Well, it's funny because from their perspective, that wasn't what was happening, right? From England's perspective, they were factions of Christianity, and like they had to reform it, obviously.
Totally right.
Protestantism became a thing, and then that got exported to the United States. So it's like it's very weird to me that Christianity is popular in the United States in the demographic breakdown that it is, like in the denominational breakdown, because it's like we're talking about like. I don't know, like I feel like it's not well represented because people talk about Christianity really blanketly, but are we talking about like Roman Catholics, really? Like there's a lot of Catholics, but then there's also
a lot
Protestants.
Less Catholics than Protestants though in America.
There's Baptists.
Yeah.
There's
they do lump all those together, like Lutherans and Baptists, because the thing is generally where a lot of Christians will try to draw those definitive lines are between if they think it's going to be the difference between going to hell or not. So they think that Baptists and Lutherans are arguing over minutia, but ultimately the important stuff is that Jesus is God and that he died for your sins. And so when you die, his cleansing of your sin allows you to go into heaven. So it doesn't really matter about the minutia stuff that we differ on. But they do have issues with like Mormons, because it's like, well, because a lot of other people will lump Christians and Mormons, and they're like, well, wait a second, they don't have those, like that's
those tenets.
Yes, I'm trying to think. They have a word for that, where it's basically these kinds of like, we can argue about how many angels are dancing on the head of a pin, but ultimately, as long as we have these important like salvation problems together, then we can lump ourselves as we're pretty much,
What a weird concept.
Which one?
Yeah.
Just the whole thing.
Well, it's I think it's interesting. I like the way that Jordan Peterson was putting it, where he was like, the thing with the Bibles and most religious texts from those times is that they're really good insights into the like collective wisdoms of mankind up to those points. And so a lot of things are interesting because they got some things right, just a lot of the whys were wrong. This idea of a sin nature obviously is off, but the idea that people evolutionarily were the ones that succeeded better were the ones that were looking out for self-preservation all the time. Those would have outperformed the ones that weren't. The ones that were cool within kin groups, but then kind of shitty to outside kin groups, ended up making like little factions and fucked up other groups. And so those kinds of things, they were seeing these things and then trying to figure out what was behind it. And then they started coming up with a bunch of hogwash. But it's interesting to see them kind of like, there were certain kind of truths about humanity that they found out a very long time ago. It's just, it led us into these.
I don't know if I would characterize. It's an interesting observation. I don't know if I'd characterize them as truths per se, but it's definitely like in the same way that I wouldn't characterize astrology as having truths in it. Or you know what I'm saying?
Well, you'd
like,
have to point to what the truth was, you know.
Something a Scorpio would say.
I take Hitchens' line on this. It says that like in many ways, like religion was our kind of first attempt at philosophy, and in the same way that astrology is our first attempt at astronomy, and that alchemy was our first attempt at chemistry, and numerology our first attempt at math. Like,
but I think those could both be true, though.
As a primitive like society, that's rife with superstition, fear, and ignorance, you're going to come up with explanations for things that you might not immediately have at your disposal, and they're going to be functional for a long time. But then when when reality kicks in, and when the real truth comes out, or truth, maybe not the real truth, but at least a closer approximation of that real truth in the form of chemistry or astronomy, you update, and you as a society you turn the page. Go, all right, now we can try something else. In the same way that all of these things were first attempts. I think in the rawest sense of the observation that religion is a first attempt at something, I would agree with Jordan Peterson. I don't know that it has any underlying truths in it.
Well, when I say truth, but I think there are truths. Like I said, the sin nature thing. I think that there's some truth in the idea that like people are baseline shitty and you have to exert effort to be nice. It's not your baseline to be super duper nice. It's your baseline to be selfish, and you have to overcome that. And that's why almost every morality system is based around this idea of like trying and striving to choose to be a better person. Another good example though would be something simple, like somehow the Jews figured out like 5,000 years ago that a lot of certain kinds of food types were rough on people. And so they had all these religious things. So again, I don't think that shellfish was not okay because some man in the sky said not to eat it, but they happen to have figured out the mercury situation. They happen to have figured out trichinosis with pigs, so there's these. So like I said, I like the idea that these are kind of like collections of data of like wisdom sets from like the wisest people that you had access to at those times, trying to catalog this information. But there's just all of it's like sometimes they ended up landing on the right mark, but the whys are all fucked up.
Which is
fine. The why's all mythology based.
Yeah, exactly, right. I mean, you would have seen the same thing with Greeks and stuff too.
I think like religion obviously serves a different purpose today.
I mean, I think it's bad. I think we shouldn't have it, but it's just interesting.
I don't know if it's like a hard blanket statement bad. I definitely think it serves a different purpose today than it did back then. And I think it's a shame that the texts don't get updated, because now you do have crazy shit like
100%
and all that stuff.
100%.
Where it's like that served a purpose at a time, but now like it serves a completely different purpose. Like it serves more of a community purpose and a sense of belonging to some people. And,
I think that's all of the story of mankind right now. With like we're cursed with that. It's like we have a huge amount of systems that we evolved with that were very helpful to get us to this point, but now we've evolved past them and they're holding us back. Tribalism, I think, was very useful for like monkey people, but now that we're hyper civilized and live in cities and stuff, it creates racism. And so it just would have been like there's certain systems that were like okay to a point and kind of got us where we are, but you're right, we can't update and we can't cleave easily from the old systems.
We basically have to assimilate. We have to like make them work in our current society in different ways. So like the current versions of like the most benign forms of religion that we have are the kind of laissez-faire, like we take the text, but none of them, we understand none of it's literal. We don't really believe any of this stuff. We just want a place to hang out with because I like having friends as a human being.
That's hard to find in America.
It is. And and now like millennials and Zoomers and stuff who are growing up without religions are showing that it's possible to still have that connection with like, I don't know, TikTok folks or gamers.
Video games, dude.
TikTok, like, the new Christianity.
Well, dude, like...
Well, furrydom is the
new Christianity, specifically.
Sure. Like, we have a community in the same, and we gather in groups and we worship. It's similar. It's not. It serves the same function at any rate.
I completely agree. Yeah,
we're slowly replacing. We're slowly replacing it. We're ship of Theseusing our way.
Yes.
Through
that's a
all
good way
the things
to
that we don't need anymore.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll get better.
The only thing though is that we also have to be sober that we're also replacing some of them with things that are almost equally unhealthy. I think some people's religion of their identity politics, or not identity politics, but the religion of their politics can get like that too, where people will be like, I heard Ben Shapiro straight up tell Joe Rogan that he, in essence, doesn't have his own personal problem with marijuana, but because the party is not into marijuana, he's basically, not into marijuana. Like, that's religion to me, so those kinds of things stress me out. So I do think it's getting better, and I do agree with everything you said. I just think there's also other things we can be insidious about with that too. I mean, even sometimes people get too crazy about sports. It's like you don't like the right sports team, or you don't like the right band.
That's just more tribalism, right?
Well, I think all that is though, right? Exactly. So like, I think that we need to also be sober to see that about ourselves. I think one of the problems we're having too, though, is that culture is evolving at a faster rate than evolution can keep up with, and so we are going to have to come up with external solutions for some of these things because we can't just wait till we evolve out of it. It's going to take another million years, and we don't have that time.
I think that's what Richard Dawkins was trying to point out way back when with the selfish gene, and he created a whole meme universe as a result. So maybe the solution can be, or the answer could be harder than the questions sometimes. But
how so?
No, that's the point he was making though. That was that culture. That essentially culture is a microcosm of evolution, and that it accelerates. It accelerates at that point, and where evolution has genes and use genes to propagate a biological organism. Culture has memes,
right?
Memes propagate these ideological ideas. And
which, to clarify for anyone listening, he doesn't mean like exactly joke memes. He means like a meme as like a thought, as a physical representation.
Not specifically Pepe.
Yeah.
No, but
more
count.
general.
No, but Pepe. Yeah,
no, that counts as one.
It counts, but memes is bigger
on
than
the broader
those
sense,
joke
not
memes.
just like pictures on Twitter.
Richard Dawkins wasn't talking about
Success Kid.
The kind of an indefinite meme. He was talking about. Sorry, he wasn't talking about a definite meme. He was talking about an indefinite meme.
The idea of a meme.
Yeah.
Ideas
the platonic form of a meme. He would have never envisioned like the materialization of it in such a stark.
Well, infinite communication brought that about, Bernie Burns, who is one of the 4 guys who started Rooster Teeth, was saying how he's like, it's interesting watching 60s sci-fi movies because they completely got 2 things switched. They always assumed that in the near future we were going to solve the energy crisis, but they hadn't figured out the information crisis. So people were still like writing notes on paper and passing them in like their spaceship where they had like infinite energy, and it was the exact opposite. We like completely obliterated the information crisis, and the energy crisis is as bad as ever. And so it's like Twitter has made it where just like the existence of Success Kid was because information became completely free and open for everyone to trade with, and just a complete open market. That is hard to even call it market because it's just so completely open, and things take on just these insane lives. I mean, think about how many memes were real people, like Bad Like Brian.
Yeah. Like the little. I mean, imagine being a meme. How great would that be as a life?
Pretty sweet.
If it was me, I think it'd
imagine
be awesome.
Being scumbag Steve.
He hated it. He had like a real problem at first.
Oh yeah, no. Everyone who has been a meme has hated being a meme.
I don't know about everyone.
No one has enjoyed.
I think most. I think it's been bad for most.
Star Wars kid.
The girlfriend girl though,
Monica
she got into
Lewinsky
it.
to some extent was a meme back in the day.
She's kind of an interesting take of like meme 0.5,
Lewinsky?
Kind of like the early
proto
making,
meme.
Proto meme. Yeah,
meme.
you see, it's like an ancient ancestor of the meme. Yeah, because there was that kind of thing. Well, that's the thing too. When people were still having to like, there was like physical kind of almost memes of people like passing around VHS tapes that were like funny, shitty movies, And
do you remember the little thing that people had in school?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah,
that's a meme.
The thing in the opening of Community, the show. Hashtag and a movie. No, for sure. There's a lot of those kinds of things that it's interesting to watch those proto versions of how they well, I remember when I was 18, I thought a meme by definition specifically was image macros. Like that was the only thing that was a meme to me, and it took a long time before I started broadening.
Well, I would imagine that's how almost everyone was first introduced to the word meme.
Probably, I was like, oh look, this is a meme, and you're like, oh, that specifically is a meme. Courage Wolf or Success Kid or any of those or whatever. So you're right. And then as time goes on, people start saying like, oh, I did it as a meme, and I was like, oh, I don't know if you used that right. And then it became a thing. I remember the first time I heard the word selfie, like it was what's his face, it was Tyler the
I don't remember. Tell me.
Tyler the Creator was explaining to a person who was interviewing him, and he was like, oh yeah, I got a selfie with like so and so, Mariah Carey, and she's like, what's a selfie? And him having to explain like what else, like that, and she was explaining it to me too. I'd never heard it, and it took like a week before it was just completely common parlance. Those are all funny. There's a funny video of like Katie Couric trying to explain what the internet was
my God.
in the 90s. She's like, are we on the internet now? Like, so the internet is like, it's just,
Oh my God.
it's insane. It's so
That's pretty,
fun.
yeah. Like not understanding what the internet was in the 90s was pretty sweet.
Isn't that so crazy? And it feels simultaneously like yesterday, but also like it must have been a million years ago because
A million years ago. Yeah.
That just reminds me of another David Mitchell and Webb sketch where it's like the television one for the first time. It's like, if you haven't seen it,
I didn't see that one.
It
No, I didn't. I will.
It's like,
I'm trying to think
you
I've
haven't
seen
seen
it.
it.
I probably have seen it.
It's the very first television broadcast, and it's like, hello, we are broadcasting live from the first time from this new thing called television. We're broadcasting in profile because we think it looks the most natural. And now I shall introduce my new friend.
Yes.
And it's just like,
Exactly.
and they like send the other guy in. It's like a giant machine in the background. It's so good. Are we on? We know you can hear us, but we don't know if we can hear you. So now, please loudly say something into your television sets.
Please yell
and we
something.
shall listen. And it's just like,
It is.
That's
No,
great.
it's fun. Yeah. Like,
are we on the internet now? Like, that's what I thought of. Like, are we on the television?
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Can you hear me?
God, I almost wonder if that's if that was a reference to that. I was watching Netflix has that documentary series that's just about decades. And so it's like, this is the 90s or something like that. Or it's just called the 90s,
Yeah.
I think. And then the 70s, the 80s, whatever. So it's fun to do the 90s because I remember the 90s as like a single digit year old person. So it was fascinating hearing like this recontextualization from people who were adults that remember the same things I remember, but they remember them from the point of
Yeah.
view of being like 25. That was really interesting to hear that. I was like, oh shit, I was there for that, but I have a completely different understanding of it based on being,
Totally, yeah.
I was 11 years old when 9/11 happened, so I have a completely different understanding and feeling about it than other people who understood anything about world politics at the time. I didn't even know what the World Trade Centers were. The first time I heard about them was when they were coming down, so that kind of thing. It's very so it was in, I think, the like each episode is about a theme, and so one of them was the internet, and so that episode it ended with that bit of Katie Couric just being like struggling trying to figure out this internet thing. And it's also like
So it's tubes?
it's a series of tubes. How many not insane people were like, it's a fad, it will never catch on?
Oh, tons.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Paul Krugman, to name one not totally not popular economist who people totally don't take seriously right now.
Well, if you missed that bad on something like that, it's probably hard to come back from that.
Paul Krugman's a hack, and everyone who listens to him should be ashamed.
Oh no. Yeah, it's there's a lot of those kinds of things where, I mean, I've been super wrong about those too. Like I remember thinking like big entertainment systems would just only ever be like a thing for like the bourgeoisie. So it was never going to make it down to like the layman or whatever. But also when you're young, you don't have the history of seeing it happen. I didn't understand the cycle of like thing comes out really expensive, 10 years later everyone has it, and then the next thing. So you do that once or twice and then you go, oh, that's how it works. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, that's my policy for buying video games.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wait.
Wait on
It's
Steam.
great.
Yeah, you'll be all right. The Escapist made a comic about that, saying how some guy was like, one of the guys was like, oh yeah, I figured out that's what I'm going to do. It's great. I save all this money. He's like, there's only one problem I didn't foresee. And it shows him at the office the next day. And he's like, dude, you played The Last of Us? Oh my God, it's crazy. And like everyone already played it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You like can't have any conversations about him. You're like, dude, that twist in Lost, it's so good. It's like, that show everyone stopped watching 15 years ago.
Can we talk about The Sixth Sense?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Man, that's funny you bring that up. I saw that again recently, and I'm realizing
nice.
I really do not like. There's never been a movie where I thought that M. Night Shyamalan had great cinematography. I do not like his cinematography.
Cinematography, yeah.
Yeah, The Sixth Sense is
Not so
absolutely a good movie, but man, there's just a lot of shot choices where I'm seeing things I didn't like in newer movies, and I saw it even in that. So I was like, okay, even back then he was making the same kinds of decisions I'm just not a big fan of. But I don't know. Well, hey, it's been 3 hours. I don't want to keep you guys all night. But it was a blast talking to you. Every time we do this, I'm always like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I'm glad we do this.
We should do this again. Oh wait, we're going to.
We totally should. So all right. So we're gonna watch Airplane.
Sure. Maybe
Sure,
something else.
I can watch Airplane.
I'm down to watch other stuff too. So I'll tell you what, we can talk more about that on Twitter. But for everyone listening, we're signing off. It was great having you, and we'll catch you next week, 2 weeks from now. All right, later, guys. Y'all have a good night, okay?
Good.
Bye.
Bye.